Chapter 1810. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 2. It's all thanks to the Patriarch's kindness. If it were not for the Patriarch's assistance, I would have never been able to become a god so soon. Xiu clasped her fist towards Jian Chen as the light in her eyes flickered. Unknowingly, her opinion of Jian Chen had changed silently. Jian Chen was quite indifferent to how Xiu behaved towards him. After nodding slightly, he looked towards Mo Ling and Ando Fu. He said to the two of them, "I'm going to be leaving for some time. During this period, you two will keep up the management of the clan. If there's anything important, crush this jade talisman." As he said that, he passed a talisman to Mo Ling. The talisman contained a sliver of the power from his soul. Once the talisman was shattered, he would sense it. "Yes, Patriarch." Mo Ling stowed the jade talisman away carefully. Xiu trembled undetectably when she heard that Jian Chen would be leaving. At that moment, she felt dispirited for some reason. Afterwards, Jian Chen told the people some more things before directly leaving the Tian Yuan clan. Shangguan Mu'er and the others were all in secluded cultivation within the forbidden grounds. He did not take anyone with him. He was moving alone this time. Only the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast was an exception. It remained within the bright moon divine hall, lying gently on Kai Ya's casket like a royal guard. Sigh. Kai Ya, I wonder when you'll awaken. However, I have completely no clue just what has happened to her. I'll have to ask the overgods to have a look once I go to the royal capital in the future. Let's see whether they know a method to cure Kai Ya, Jian Chen thought. He had inspected Kai Ya's conditions closely and many times in the past. She clearly was not injured. He had even used the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo on her. The sap from the bamboo was something for healing injuries to the soul. Even if Kai Ya's soul was severely damaged, a single drop would be more than enough for her to make a full recovery with her strength. However, the sap had been like a drop in an ocean when he used it on her. It did not have any effects at all, making Jian Chen very confused. Even the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo was useless on Kai Ya. There are only two possibilities for this. One is that the sap of amethyst spiritual bamboo is not enough for Kai Ya's soul to be healed, while the second one is that Kai Ya's soul is not injured at all, Jian Chen murmured. He naturally believed it was the second reason. As a result, he was helpless about Kai Ya's current predicament. Before long, Jian Chen arrived in front of God King Duanmu's dwelling again. Even though it had already been several decades since the commotion the dwelling caused, the place was still extremely busy and continued to attract many cultivators from distant lands. As a result, many people entered and exited the place basically every day. Although the overgods had taken away all the treasures within the dwelling several decades ago, there were still objects that interested deities and gods within the place. In particular, godhood experts who comprehended the laws of the sword treated the empty dwelling as a great treasure. This was because there were also sword slashes left behind by God King Duanmu. It was exactly because of these slashes that the people in the surrounding divine kingdoms who comprehended the laws of the sword and the laws of space had all gathered here. There were also quite a few Origin Realm cultivators among them. As a matter of fact, there were even a few Saint Emperors who used the sword as their preferred weapon who had come to try their luck. They hoped to come across the fortune that would allow them to rise up. As a result, the current dwelling seemed rather bustling. Jian Chen erased his presence and entered the dwelling as well. He heard various sounds as soon as he entered the dwelling. There were already quite a few people outside, but there were even more inside the dwelling. It was extremely busy like a noisy market. Jian Chen made his way towards the depths of the dwelling with much familiarity, and he arrived in the dwelling of God King Duanmu's disciple very soon. The place was filled with people as well. There were even more people in the sword comprehension building. Basically, everyone stared at the sword slash that God King Duanmu had left within the building personally. They tried their hardest to comprehend it and benefit. Jian Chen shook his head gently when he saw the slash within the building. He could tell with a single glance that the slash had lost its mysteriousness and charm. This was because the slashes God King Duanmu left behind could only be comprehended a certain number of times. Once the number exceeded the limit, the slash would lose all its charm and become ordinary. It would be very difficult to benefit from it no matter how it was studied. Jian Chen did not stay there for very long. He continued onwards to the very depths. Very soon, he arrived before the 3 stone huts. Aside from the first hut that had already collapsed, the 2 other huts remained standing. People would enter and exit from time to time. However, There were quite a few people who had come into the dwelling for the first time outside of the two huts. They were hesitating over which hut to enter. Quick, go to the third hut. There's someone who has become a god successfully in the third hut again. At this moment, a voice rang out nearby. When they heard the voice, the cultivators that had gathered there immediately fell into a commotion. What? Someone has broken through again in the third hut. I really do envy them. The third hut has given birth to over a dozen gods. Quick, enter the third hut. The third hut is where God King Duanmu passed away. The comprehension of laws from his past life remains there. The comprehensions have become very thin now, reaching a level that we can comprehend. Cultivating in there will increase your chances of becoming a god drastically. What are you hesitating for? Let's go to the third hut. We might be able to break through there as well and become gods. Immediately, the hesitating cultivators all rushed towards the third hut. Jian Chen took a step forwards and made his way towards the stone huts as well. However, he did not go to the third hut but the second. After making it through the entrance, the world around Jian Chen opened up. He had entered another world. The place seemed like an extremely large world. It was filled with endless mountain ranges, and each of them stood up like swords, directly reaching towards the sky. Many mountains possessed huge slashes caused by swords. This was where God King Duanmu had once practiced the sword, so an invisible sword chi permeated the entire space. Even though countless years had already passed, the sharpness remained. Chapter 1811. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 3. The place was basically a holy land for those who comprehended the laws of the sword. The slashes on the mountains were a supreme treasure to them. Even to Jian Chen, an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, cultivating here would be greatly beneficial. As a matter of fact, there had been countless people who tried all sorts of methods to take the slashes away in the past years. However, none of them had succeeded so far. This was because the mountains that possessed sword slashes were all extremely tough, making it impossible to move them. There were also many people gathered before the mountain ranges. The many cultivators of various cultivation levels either sat on the rocks or hovered in the air as they tried to comprehend the sword intent. Not all of them comprehended the laws of the sword. There were even a few people who comprehended other laws. It was just that they also used swords, so they hoped to comprehend a new usage of the sword from the sword slashes or comprehend the laws of the sword as a second law. Of course, amongst the countless people here, there was only a handful who truly benefited. Jian Chen looked around before casually finding a place to sit down. With a flip of his hand, he took out the two scrolls detailing God King Duanmu's notes on the laws of the sword from the God King space ring. He unfurled one of them and began to study it with great concentration. This is where God King Duanmu practiced the sword in the past. Basically, the entire place is filled with God King Duanmu's slashes from his laws of the sword. Comprehending God King Duanmu's notes regarding the laws of the sword in an environment like this would make it far easier without a doubt. I'll be able to reach the partial achievement of sword spirit in the shortest time possible, thought Jian Chen. He had sensed long ago that he had already reached the minor achievement of sword spirit. He was only a step away from partial achievement. God King Duanmu was extremely accomplished in the laws of the sword, and he even reached the point where he had a foot planted in the primordial realm. The notes personally written by him would naturally be of great help to Jian Chen. Jian Chen's entire mind sank into God King Duanmu notes. Jian Chen had benefited greatly from reading the two scrolls. He felt enlightened, and he seemed to find a direction for many things he did not understand in the past. As a matter of fact, Jian Chen even found his erroneous assumptions through the notes, allowing him to deepen his understanding of the laws of the sword. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had already sat there for 10 years. During this decade, he did not move at all and remained still like a statue. A thick layer of dust had even accumulated on him. That person has sat there for 10 straight years. Has he benefited from it? A decade is not exactly long. I've even cultivated for several hundred years in a single sitting in the past, let alone a decade. It's just that I've yet to see someone who can last 10 years here, yeah. Perhaps the sword slashes are just too profound to us, so we're unable to comprehend the mysteries within it all. Basically, everyone needs to stop after 2 or 3 years to mull over what they have found or find another place to continue comprehending. There's rarely anyone who can last for an entire decade here. There has been a few gods who comprehend the laws of the sword that managed to grasp a sliver of the mysteries in there in the past few years. It's just a pity that they couldn't last for too long, and they all vomited blood, becoming heavily injured. The slashes left behind by God King Duanmu are just too profound. You'll naturally be fine if you can't comprehend it, but if you do, even gods will suffer a backlash from the sword intent. This person has lasted 10 years, so his cultivation must be extremely impressive. In just a short decade, Jian Chen had attracted the attention of many. Without any exception, all of them looked at Jian Chen in complete surprise and shock. There were even some people who looked at him in admiration. 10 years of cultivation was nothing for the people present, but being able to comprehend for 10 years at this place was a whole new story. At this moment, Jian Chen finally moved from his statue-like posture. As he moved, large motes of dust fell off him. That person has finally roused. Heavens, he actually hasn't vomited blood. Has he really been comprehending the sword intent here in the past 10 years? Looks like he entered a complete state of selflessness. He must have been comprehending. Who is this? Jian Chen immediately attracted the attention of many after rousing. At that moment, many gazes throughout the mountains had gathered on him. However, no one could recognize Jian Chen. Although they had all heard of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, there had only been a handful of people who had truly seen him. Jian Chen did not seem to realize that so many people were staring at him. He slowly put the 2 scrolls away. In the past decade, he had been comprehending the slashes on the mountains and the scrolls together, allowing him to make extremely great progress. He was only a tiny step away from the partial achievement of sword spirit now. At this moment, another group of people entered the space. There were a total of 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman only seemed to be in her 20s. She was beautiful, but she was dressed extremely provocatively. She only had a single ribbon across her chest, revealing most of her body. She wore an extremely short skirt as well, so only 3 parts of her body were covered. Her round, circular legs were completely exposed. At the same time, she did not contain the hedonistic light in her eyes at all. She was filled with a deep sense of perversion. The other 2 men followed beside the woman. They were both middle-aged. However, flashes of primitive desire would flash through their eyes from time to time when they looked at the woman. However, the 2 gods did not touch this woman who was only a deity. Unless they gained permission, they would not even touch a hair on her. The provocative woman looked around. A sliver of perversion appeared in her enchanting eyes. Suddenly, she charged towards an extremely handsome young man nearby, who only seemed to be in his 20s. Chapter 1812, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 4. The young man was only at reciprocity, so he was unable to resist before the female deity at all. The woman captured him effortlessly. Senior, what are you doing? The young man began to panic. The provocative woman pushed her face up close to the young man's face. She extended her tongue and licked his face gently. She gave off a fragrance that could incite the bestial instincts of desire, and she said softly, "Little brother, don't panic or be scared. I won't hurt you because you've already caught my eye. Let me properly show some love to you. I'll take you to a land of bliss." As she said that, the woman waved her hand and a divine hall immediately flew out. It rapidly expanded in the air and landed heavily on the ground. The woman grabbed the young man and directly entered the divine hall, ignoring his resistance. The people gathered in the space to comprehend the laws of the sword looked at the provocative woman at that moment as well. However, their expressions became rather strange very soon. This was because the woman's divine hall was transparent. By transparent, it meant that everything that happened within the divine hall could be seen clearly from the outside. The perversion in the woman's eyes became even more intense within the divine hall. Under everyone's gazes, she stripped the young man naked first before ripping off everything on her body. She directly pressed the young man to the floor and sat down on him just like that, going at it publicly. "Senior, please don't. Senior, spare me." The young man was not delighted at all. Instead, he began to beg miserably. However, his body was trapped and immobilized, so he could only watch the woman sit on him. He was unable to do anything. However, his complexion gradually paled while his skin gradually lost its luster. It yellowed as if his vitality was being drained away. On the other hand, the woman was ruddy. She was in high spirits as if she had just eaten something nourishing. Tch! So shameless. What a shameless person. There were also quite a few women in the space. Their faces all reddened slightly when they saw this repulsive sight, and they cursed. "Humph, you're looking to die." The two middle-aged men who had come in with the provocative woman immediately became angered when they heard these statements. One of them called out coldly, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. He swung it towards a few women. The huge axe cleaved through the air and sent a demonic aura towards the women. The women had not even reached the level of gods, so they completely lacked the strength to fend off an attack from a god. They all paled in fright. Great-grandfather. At this moment, one of the women called out. Nearby, the eyes of an old man who sat on a mountain peak snapped open. The moment he stood up, a sharp sword chi immediately began to radiate from him. He wielded a sword and directly sent a sword chi towards the axe. Boom! The demonic aura produced by the middle-aged man immediately dispersed while the sword chi dulled slightly as well. However, it did not disperse and instead continued towards the middle-aged man with lightning speed. A god who has comprehended the laws of the sword. The expression of the middle-aged man with the axe changed. He immediately swung out a second time and dispersed the sword chi. However, he could not help but take a small step back. At the same time, fear flooded his gaze towards the old man. At the same time, Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. He could not help but properly study the old man in interest. My great-granddaughter is not someone you can hurt. Moreover, you're literally offending the public by letting something so repulsive happen before everyone. I'll teach you all a proper lesson today. The old man wielded his sword as he radiated with powerful sword chi. He strode through the air and rapidly moved towards the two middle-aged men. He gave off quite the presence. Humph. We're from the Mo family. Sir, do you plan on going up against our Mo family? The middle-aged man with the axe growled sternly. The old man had comprehended the laws of the sword, so he was extremely powerful. He and his companion probably would not be this old man's opponent even when working together. The old man halted when he heard that they were from the Mo family. His face changed slightly, and he growled, "The Mo family? The Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang?" The middle-aged men's faces could not help but brighten when they saw the old man respond like that. They could tell that he feared the Mo family. That's right. We're elders of the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, the middle-aged man with the axe said arrogantly. At the same time, he took out a token that displayed his identity. Fear immediately appeared in the old man's eyes when he saw the token that represented an elder of the Mo family. He snorted coldly and arrived before one of the young women and stood in front of her to protect her. Clearly, he was afraid of provoking the Mo family. Great-grandfather, that woman is so shameless. The woman behind the old man said with resentment. Enough. Don't mention this again. The Mo family is a clan with an over-god. They're not a clan that we can offend, the old man said to the woman secretly. His voice was filled with hopelessness. The people who originally planned on complaining as well all settled down after the middle-aged man revealed their identities. Fear appeared in their eyes as well. They clearly did not dare to provoke the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Jian Chen sighed gently at this sight. He stood up slowly and casually extended a finger towards the transparent divine hall. A tiny sword chi immediately shot out with that gesture, shattering the divine hall to pieces. The powerful shockwaves created forcefully separated the woman and young man as well. The woman could not help but become furious when someone got in the way of something she was enjoying very much. She immediately called out, "Who? Who is it? Are you sick of living? Woman, please have some dignity in the public. Don't do these offending things," Jian Chen said emotionlessly as he stood on a mountain peak. There was repulsion in his eyes as well. How dare you? The woman did not put on any clothes and just stood up like that. Just as she pointed at Jian Chen and was about to bellow out, she could not help but become stunned. She dazedly stared at Jian Chen who stood on the mountain peak with his arms crossed, and she became infatuated. What a handsome man. In particular, his otherworldly presence makes him seem so noble. I've played around with so many men before, but I've never seen a man with a presence like that. In the blink of an eye, all of the woman's anger vanished. She flew to Jian Chen's side eagerly as she stared at Jian Chen with deep desire. She said, "Big brother, what's your name?" Chapter 1813. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit. 5. Jian Chen frowned. He felt slightly helpless. At the same time, everyone's gazes gathered on Jian Chen once again. It's him. It's the person who sat for 10 years without moving at all. What is his cultivation? Even after learning they're from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, he still dares to interfere. He's clearly not as simple as he seems. However, he doesn't seem to dare offend the Mo family too much either. Otherwise, the woman would have been injured when he shattered the divine hole. I wonder what he'll do now that the shameless woman has laid her eyes on him. Many people wondered as they tried to work out Jian Chen's strength and background. However, even more people wanted to see just how Jian Chen would handle the situation today. This was because he was up against the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, which was a clan with an over-god. The woman did not become angry at all when Jian Chen remained silent. Affection filled her eyes, and she said softly, "Big brother, I've fallen in love with you at first sight, so why must you be so cold to me? Don't be so dense, let me properly show you some love. I swear that I won't hurt you at all, unlike that little brother from before. Big brother, I can teach you a dual cultivation method. We only have to try it once, and our strength will increase drastically. I can guarantee you that you'll become infatuated with it once you try it." The woman from the Mo family stood behind Jian Chen and dazedly said to his back. She was filled with hope and desire. She was not telling any lies either because she had truly become deeply attracted by Jian Chen's bearing. "Piss off, or I'll show you what I can do," Jian Chen said coldly as heavy killing intent clashed through his eyes. The woman was only a deity. She was as insignificant as an ant in Jian Chen's eyes. He could not bring himself to killing something so insignificant, but her actions had incited his killing intent. The woman from the Mo family realized that Jian Chen did not want to follow what she said when she sensed Jian Chen's killing intent. Her face could not help but darken. She planted her hands on her hips and said coldly, "I have good intentions yet you still turn me down. There hasn't been a single man that I've wanted who has managed to escape from me. You're mine for sure today. You'll become my sex slave." With that, the woman turned towards the two middle-aged men nearby and said, "Elders, please capture this person." The elders hesitated slightly before directly flying towards Jian Chen. Looks like the Mo family really doesn't have anyone good. Jian Chen was emotionless. A tiny strand of sword chi suddenly flashed near his fingers, shooting towards the woman's forehead like it was nothing. The woman was unable to put up any resistance at all before an over-god. A bloody hole appeared in her forehead, and in the blink of an eye, her soul had been wiped out. She collapsed while retaining the same posture. The two elders who flew over became stunned when they saw the bloody hole. Their eyes widened as disbelief filled their faces. They were not the only ones. Everyone in the space there became flooded with disbelief as well. She was a person from the Mo family, and she seemed to possess quite some status, yet Jian Chen had killed her without any hesitance at all. This left everyone deeply shocked. Why, you actually killed the second young lady." The two elders paled. They understood very well just what status the second young lady possessed in the Mo family. She was the person that the ancestor of the Mo family doted on, yet she had just died before the two of them like this. The ancestor would definitely become enraged. Jian Chen looked at the two elders and said coldly, "People of the Mo family, if you want to live for a little longer, you better watch yourselves in the Dong'an province. Do you know who you just killed? The ancestor will never let you go." The two elders did not dare to charge towards Jian Chen anymore. Instead, they yelled at him from afar. Both of them could tell that Jian Chen definitely had his reasons for being able to kill a person of the Mo family so fearlessly. "The ancestor of the Mo family just happens to have taken something from me. Go report to your ancestor that before long, I, Jian Chen, will be paying a personal visit," Jian Chen said. Although he had described it as a visit, it did not sound like a visit at all from Jian Chen's tone. "What? Why, you're Jian Chen. Why, you're the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan." The expressions of the two elders changed suddenly. They could not help but stagger backwards as shock filled their faces. At the same time, the expressions of all the cultivators gathered there changed drastically as well. Their eyes widened as they stared at Jian Chen in complete disbelief. Their hearts churned. "What? He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Heavens, is that what I heard? He's actually the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen." The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is basically someone who controls the Dong'an province. I've actually had the honor of seeing him personally. At that moment, many of the gazes towards Jian Chen became filled with curiosity. At the same time, there was admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Run! The elders did not dare to say anything more. They glanced at Jian Chen in complete fear before turning around and fleeing desperately. They fled the dwelling as quickly as possible. They did not even bother about the woman's corpse. Jian Chen did not stop them and allowed them to escape. Although the ancestor of the Mo family had taken an item of his, this was a matter between him and the ancestor. He found no meaning in dragging gods into their conflict. At this moment, Jian Chen looked towards the old man who had stepped in earlier. He clasped his hands and said, "Sir, may I ask for your name?" The old man immediately became startled when he heard Jian Chen ask for his name personally. He hurried to return the gesture and said, "I'm Qi Qian. I come from the Kaiyang province of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Greetings to the Patriarch. Qi Qian, I see that you have some accomplishments with the sword. I was wondering if you were interested in joining my Tian Yuan clan. If you are willing, I will definitely assist you with everything I have so that you can become an over-god," said Jian Chen as he tried to rope in Qi Qian. This was because he had a vague feeling that Qi Qian's accomplishments with the sword would be far more than this. Qi Qian was overjoyed. He said emotionally, "Really? If I join the Tian Yuan clan, the Patriarch will assist me in becoming an over-god?" Chapter 1814. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit. 6. Naturally. Since I've made a promise to you, I will definitely follow through with everything I have so that you can become an over-god. Given that your talent isn't too horrible, Jian Chen guaranteed. Although his current laws of the sword were only at the level of mid-over-god, he was confident that making Qi Qian an over-god would not be too difficult. Qi Qian was only a mid-god right now. There would be some time before he reached peak god. By then, with Jian Chen's rate of comprehension, he probably would have reached the major achievement of sword spirit, the great perfection of sword spirit, or maybe even sword immortal. Even if something happened, and he remained at the partial achievement of sword spirit when Qi Qian reached peak god, he was still confident it would not be too much of a problem for Qi Qian to become an over-god with his full assistance. I should be leaving this place very soon. But before I do leave, I must increase the strength of the Tian Yuan clan some more. It's best if I can get an over-god to protect the clan personally. Only then can I guarantee the safety of the clan. However, I have to deal with the matter regarding the Wainer clan as well. If I can't settle it peacefully, it won't be my fault. Otherwise, they're a latent threat at all times, thought Jian Chen. Part of why he wanted to rope in Qi Qian this time was because he had a certain feeling that Qi Qian's future accomplishments would definitely be quite impressive. Jian Chen was uncertain why he felt this, but he believed it without any hesitation at all. At the same time, there was something else important. He had already made up his mind about leaving the Tian Yuan clan. He was a person of the Immortals world after all. He had to return there someday. He was not born in the Immortals world. As a matter of fact, he did not know anything about that world, but whether it was his cultivation method, his legacy, or the existence of the sword spirits, they all determined him to be a part of the Immortals world. As a result, he had to strengthen the Tian Yuan clan before his departure. At the very least, he had to make it so that the Tian Yuan clan could exist stably for a very long time in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Not only did the existence of the clan protect the people who had come up from the Tian Yuan continent with him, but it would have a direct connection to any other people who came up in the future. Although the tunnel to the Saints' world would drop a person to any of the 49 Great Plains or the 81 Great Planets in the Saints' world, Jian Chen believed that once he was powerful enough, he could change that. Alternatively, he could make it such that all the people who came up in the future from the Tian Yuan continent could gather in the Tian Yuan clan. Jian Chen's promise left Qi Qian overjoyed. Although he was already a god now, he had no confidence in breaking through to over-god. Across the 36 provinces of the Divine Kingdom, each provincial city possessed several dozen or even over 100 gods, but there were only a few that managed to become over-gods. If he possessed the full assistance of the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, he believed he would be able to become an over-god. However, Qi Qian showed some hesitance. He said to Jian Chen, "But Patriarch, I already possess a clan in the Kaiyang province. I belong to the Qi family." Jian Chen waved his hand without minding it at all and smiled. "That's not a problem. You're still a part of the Qi family once you join the Tian Yuan clan. I am indebted to the Patriarch. From today onwards, I will join the Tian Yuan clan," Qi Qian said politely. Many people would choose to join larger clans or sects for better cultivation methods or to break through to higher cultivation realms in the Saints' world. Qi Qian was only making a similar decision today. "With my age and talent, The people from very powerful clans and sects may not necessarily want me. Even if I do make it in out of luck, I probably wouldn't receive much focus at all. I'll just end up running my course. Although the Tian Yuan clan cannot be compared to those clans and sects, it's enough as long as the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan will assist me in becoming an overgod. At the same time, joining the Tian Yuan clan benefits me in another way as well because I won't have to worry about the revenge from the Mo family. The Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang are known for their vengeful behavior. They're also extremely unjust. I wonder if the two elders of the Mo family will remember what I said and did today, Qi Qian thought. Qi Han greets the patriarch. At the same time, the great-granddaughter behind Qi Qian came forward and bowed politely towards Jian Chen. Many people in the surroundings looked at Qi Qian with deep envy. After all, Qi Qian did not join the Tian Yuan clan like any other person today. The patriarch had personally invited him and guaranteed to help him break through to overgod. After revealing his identity, Jian Chen's status in the space immediately became extremely special. Everyone no longer looked at him as casually and boldly as before. Instead, their gazes were filled with respect and reverence. This was because he was an overgod, as well as the person who held absolute power in the Dong'an province. Afterwards, Jian Chen gave Qi Qian an identification token that represented his position as an elder of the Tian Yuan clan before continuing his comprehension. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had reached the end of his second decade. After spending 20 long years comprehending here, the sword qi that permeated the space there became abnormally powerful all of a sudden, making all the cultivators present feel like they had sunken into a sea of swords. It was like a layer of invisible sword qi surrounded them. The sword qi permeated every corner of the space, and it was to the point where the origin energy in the surroundings seemed to be infected, causing it to sharpen in that instance as well. Everyone stopped cultivating and used their powerful origin energy to protect themselves, isolating themselves from the invisible sword qi the best they could. Fortunately, the sword qi there had appeared naturally and did not target them, so they did not become injured once they resisted with their full strength. There was only one person who was an exception, and that was Jian Chen. He had become covered in dust again. Jian Chen remained seated where he was like a statue and did not move at all. However, very soon, the dust on Jian Chen dispersed by itself. Gradually, a sharp and powerful sword qi began to shine from Jian Chen, growing in brightness and power. In the end, it formed a huge sword qi that plunged into the sky. From a distance, it seemed like a huge pillar that shone with an extremely bright light, rooted in the ground and reaching towards the sky. Chapter 1815. Miraculous Liquid. It's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. What's happening? Why is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan suddenly emitting such powerful sword qi? Has he broken through? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already very powerful. I heard that the overgod of the Wainer clan was not his opponent at all and was kept at bay throughout the entire battle. Now that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has broken through, just how powerful will he become? Will he be a mid-overgod? Or a late overgod? I heard that every breakthrough for an overgod requires an extremely lengthy period of cultivation, but the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has only remained here for 2 decades, and he has broken through again. This talent is just too terrifying. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already a peak expert within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even among all the overgods, there aren't many people who are his opponent because he has comprehended the laws of the sword. Many cultivators stood in the distance as they cried out while staring at Jian Chen. Qi Qian did not leave during this period. When he saw Jian Chen make another breakthrough, he felt joy from the bottom of his heart. He was a part of the Tian Yuan clan now, so the more powerful the patriarch became, the more immovable the Tian Yuan clan's status would become. His chances at becoming an overgod would increase as well. The sword qi radiated from Jian Chen for an entire day before slowly dispersing in the end. Very soon, the surroundings settled down once more. With the disappearance of the powerful sword qi, all the cultivators gathered there, dispersed their protective barriers and stared at Jian Chen in reverence. At this moment, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes as he sat on the mountain. The moment his eyes opened, a streak of light seemed to shoot out, directly striking a mountain several thousand meters away, producing a heavy boom. If it were not for the fact that all the mountains around the area had become extremely tough due to the existence of God King Duanmu's sword slashes, the mountain probably would have been penetrated by Jian Chen's gaze. I finally reached the partial achievement of sword spirit successfully. The corner of Jian Chen's mouth curled up into a smile. After 20 years of cultivation and comprehension, his laws of the sword had broken through once more in God King Duanmu's dwelling. When I reached the minor achievement of sword spirit, my laws of the sword were only equivalent to early over God. Afterwards, I comprehended some more on the second floor of the sword comprehension building, allowing me to make some more progress. After a few years, it culminated to the peak of minor achievement, which was equivalent to mid over God. Now that my laws of the sword have reached the partial achievement of sword spirit, it's equivalent to the comprehension of a late over God, Jian Chen thought. He immediately determined his current strength. His comprehension of laws had now reached the levels of late over gods. The only thing he lacked was the same as before, and that was personal cultivation. His chaotic body remained at the 10th layer, which was equivalent to a god. Only when his chaotic body reached the 11th layer would his cultivation reach over God. Cultivation realms depended on the comprehension of laws, while cultivation depended on the energy within the dantian. My chaotic Niden is only missing a third of the energy it needs before it can reach the 11th layer. I have to find the cultivation resources for this third as soon as possible. Jian Chen made up his mind inside before leaving without any reluctance at all. After reaching the partial achievement of sword spirit, this place no longer held much significance for Jian Chen. This was because this was only the place where God King Duanmu practiced the sword, and not where God King Duanmu decided to pass on his laws. Jian Chen had already completely understood and absorbed the comprehension that would be beneficial to him. Remaining any longer would not allow him to improve. However, Jian Chen did not know that after he left, the place where he cultivated basically became a treasured and desired area. Everyone wanted to have it for themselves as if they believed that the effects of comprehending the laws of the sword would be greatly increased as long as they practiced there. At the same time, as people from many divine kingdoms were gathered in the dwelling, the news of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's breakthrough was brought back to their clans as quickly as possible. In a tall tower within the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, the ancestor of the family sat in a space. Currently, he was wearing black robes. He held an extremely damaged piece of armor in his hand as he studied it. He appeared to be hesitating. This god artifact is far too damaged. With my strength, even if I find the corresponding materials, I won't be able to repair it. If I can't repair it, this armor will only be an extremely rare but useless item for collection. I can sell it to those large sects or clans and benefit greatly, but it's a god artifact after all. Even if it's damaged, it's rather regretful for me to just sell it like that. That's because the things that those clans and sects will offer to me probably won't be enough for my strength to increase. No matter how many divine crystals and heavenly resources I possess, my strength won't increase at all as long as I can't make a breakthrough in my comprehension of laws. However, if I can repair the armor, my strength will directly increase, thought the ancestor as he hesitated. Jian Chen killed my beloved descendant, taking much delight from me. That's unforgivable. Although I've reached the peak of mid over God, I still don't have much confidence in stopping Jian Chen's 2 strands of sword qi. I must find a way to block the 2 strands of sword qi if I want to kill Jian Chen. But I can only stop the sword qi if I reach late over God or get many over gods to work with me. It's very difficult for me to make a breakthrough in my cultivation while finding other over gods to fend off Jian Chen with me is extremely difficult as well. After all, basically everyone has learnt about Jian Chen's strength and power from what happened in God King Duanmu's dwelling. It'll be difficult to invite them to help me against Jian Chen. Even if I can invite them, I'm unwilling to pay the price. The ancestor of the Mo family looked at the damaged armor in his hands again and murmured. Looks like I can only use this god artifact given the current situation. The armor is a god artifact after all. I don't have to repair it completely. Just fixing it by 10 or 20% will be more than enough to stop Jian Chen's sword qi. It's just that the liquid is just too precious. Do I really have to use it like this? The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but think about the few droplets of liquid he had come across out of luck. He had found them in outer space. When they floated quietly in space, they gave off a strange pulse. The ancestor of the Mo family did not know what the liquid was, but he did know that it was extraordinary. As a result, he collected it in delight. Afterwards, he experimented with it for countless years and finally discovered their unique property, and that was to repair. He did not know how powerful the liquid was and whether it could repair god artifacts or not. He only knew that the damaged supreme quality saint artifact he had found in the past was completely repaired with a single droplet. The only flaw was that it descended to high quality after being repaired. Chapter 1816. Repairing the armor. The ancestor of the Mo family hesitated as he stared at the damaged armor. Uncertainty flickered through his eyes as he became extremely hesitant. With a thought, a simple jade bottle appeared in his hand silently. He stared at the jade bottle and remained quiet for a very long time. This was because the bottle contained the droplets of miraculous liquid he had accidentally come across and obtained in outer space. The liquid is extremely precious. That's without a doubt. But do I use it on the god artifact or not? Can the liquid repair the armor? If it can't, wouldn't that just be wasting the treasured liquid? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely conflicted as he held the damaged armor in one hand and the bottle of liquid in the other. Moreover, there's something else important to consider. Wealth leads to ruin from others' greed. A god artifact is immensely precious, and even many infinite primes don't possess something like that. I definitely won't be able to keep the god artifact after news makes it out with my mere strength. I might even end up dooming myself. Of course, primordial realm experts will not notice it if I keep the god artifact in its current shape. If I repair it, there'll be more than a single primordial realm expert who will come looking for me. But if I don't repair it, how do I kill Jian Chen and take revenge for my dear descendant? The ancestor could not help but become enraged when he thought about how the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had claimed the life of his beloved descendant. Killing intent surged within him. Of course, the message the two elders brought back was the most important. It made the ancestor panic. They had relayed the message that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, would come personally to take back the armor before long. In the long run, I can't repair the god artifact right now because I won't be able to keep it with my current strength. At the same time, I heard that you have to reach the primordial realm to use the power of a god artifact. My current strength is nowhere close to that. The burning desire in the ancestor's eyes gradually vanished, and he calmed down. He gave up on repairing the god artifact with the miraculous liquid. This one greets the ancestor. I have important matters to report. A voice filled with reverence rang out from outside at this moment. Speak, said the ancestor of the Mo family. Ancestor, I've just received the news that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province has broken through recently in God King Duanmu's dwelling. The person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family felt like a bolt had struck him from the blue when he heard that. His body shook violently, and his face sunk in that instance. Is that true? He has broken through? The ancestor growled. This was the worst piece of news he could hear. Ancestor, I've checked over many sources, and there have been no contradictions. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has indeed broken through in God King Duanmu's dwelling. However, his current level of cultivation is unknown, the person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family fell silent, and his face darkened. After quite a while, he waved his hand and said, I understand. You can go. Descendant will be dismissing myself then. The ancestor of the Mo family sat in the room. His sunken face quickly turned stern. If Jian Chen had not broken through, the ancestor would only treat him as a powerful opponent and a great trouble for the future. Although he did pose some threat, the threat was not fatal. This was because in his eyes, there was nothing that he feared about Jian Chen apart from his profound sword qi. He did not worry about Jian Chen's cultivation level at all. This was because he had already reached the peak of mid-over-god, while Jian Chen was only at early over-god. Even if he comprehended the laws of the sword, Jian Chen would not be his opponent. If Jian Chen did not possess the deterrent of the two strands of sword qi, the ancestor would have directly made his way towards Jian Chen after the former killed his beloved descendant. However, he learned that Jian Chen had broken through. If he really did break through, would that not mean that Jian Chen's cultivation level was the same as his own now? If Jian Chen had really reached the same cultivation level as him, he knew he would not be Jian Chen's opponent with Jian Chen's battle prowess from the laws of the sword and the two strands of terrifying profound sword qi. Since Jian Chen has broken through, he'll come looking for me in the divine kingdom of Qingyan before long. I can't give this god artifact back to him. Not only that, but I have to kill him to take revenge for my beloved descendant. The ancestor of the Mo family growled as cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. Looks like I'll have to do it. The armor is my greatest trump card for killing Jian Chen. The ancestor of the Mo family made up his mind. Immediately, without any hesitation, he unscrewed the bottle and directly poured a droplet of the mysterious liquid onto the damaged armor. The liquid was transparent, but the moment it appeared, there was an indescribably mysterious presence. When it came in contact with the damaged armor, it immediately fused into it. The ancestor of the Mo family stared at the armor nervously. In reality, he had no idea whether the miraculous liquid could repair god artifacts. Suddenly, the god artifact began to shine with a dense light under the ancestor's close watch. It enveloped the entire god artifact in a single instance. Through the dense light, the ancestor of the Mo family could clearly see that the damaged armor was being repaired at an extremely gradual rate. Even though the rate of repair was slower than a snail, there was no doubt that the armor was slowly being repaired. It actually can be repaired. It actually can. Fantastic. Fantastic. This is utterly fantastic. With the protection of the god artifact, how will Jian Chen injure me as a mere overgod? Even if I can't use the power of the god artifact with my current level of cultivation, the god artifact won't be something an overgod can smash through. The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely overjoyed. His face had become flushed. He could swear that he had never been so excited since he began cultivating. 4 hours later, the dense light around the armor gradually vanished, revealing the armor again. The armor was still damaged, but compared to before, there were extremely evident changes. Some places had been repaired already, and it seemed like it had started to return to its previous state. A god artifact really is a god artifact after all. A single drop of the liquid can only repair so much. Looks like I'll have to use up all of it to fully repair the god artifact, murmured the ancestor of the Mo family. Making up his mind, he poured all the liquid onto the god artifact in a single stroke. Chapter 1817. The sword-seeking province. The ancestor of the Mo family did not have much of the miraculous liquid. When he discovered it in outer space, he had only found 6 droplets in total. He used a droplet to study its effects, wasting it on a damaged supreme quality saint artifact. As a result, he only had 5 droplets left. Even though the ancestor of the Mo family had no idea what the liquid was, nor did he find any rumors about such a liquid, he understood exactly just how valuable it was if a single droplet could repair a damaged supreme quality saint artifact. Originally, the ancestor of the Mo family did not want to use the liquid to repair the god artifact today. He knew that if the god artifact remained as damaged as it was right now, he would be able to keep it. However, he would struggle to keep it once it was repaired. As a matter of fact, countless experts would be drawn over if he leaked the news that he possessed an undamaged god artifact. These experts would not be god kings, but ones that had surpassed God King and reached the primordial realm. But now that Jian Chen had broken through, he no longer had a choice. All he could do was repair the armor. Only with the armor would he feel confident about killing the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. As all the remaining liquid was poured onto the armor, an even denser layer of light immediately rose up. The damaged portion was being repaired at an even quicker pace than before. The ancestor of the Mo family's eyes were filled with nervousness, eagerness, and joy as he stared at the piece of armor. Even though he had no idea whether he would be able to keep it forever, it was still something joyful if he could personally witness a god artifact being restored to its original form. The dense light over the armor lasted for several hours before gradually vanishing. Once the light had completely disappeared, the armor's original appearance was finally revealed. The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but become excited when he saw that the armor had been repaired. He murmured, "It has actually been completely repaired." Completely repaired, I say. That's fantastic. The liquid is miraculous. It can even repair god artifacts. I don't have the ability to refine the god artifact right now. I can't even use the power of the god artifact, but as long as I wear it, I should be able to endure attacks from overgods from the armor's defense alone. Even late overgods won't be my opponent. When he thought up to there, the ancestor of the Mo family was filled with excitement. However, he also understood that he had to keep his possession of the god artifact a complete secret. He could not bring it out unless he was facing danger. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, so what if you have those 2 strands of terrifying sword qi? I have no need to fear you at all now. The ancestor's confidence swelled. At that moment, he was even tempted to directly advance to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian to kill Jian Chen personally. After all, he had taken the god artifact from Jian Chen. He feared that Jian Chen would leak news about it. Jian Chen's strength should be similar to mine, and he comprehends the laws of the sword. I can't be defeated with the god artifact, but killing him won't be easy. If he wants to escape, I probably won't be able to stop him. I can't go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian right now. Whatever. Jian Chen probably won't leak the news of the god artifact either since he doesn't know that I've repaired it. I'll just cast down the most powerful formation I can get my hands on here and wait for Jian Chen to come patiently. The sword-seeking province was one of the 36 provinces of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, and it was also known to be the most powerful province. This was because the person who held absolute power in the province, Ling Hogong, was not only an over-god who had comprehended the laws of the sword, but also a founder of the divine kingdom. At the same time, the sword-seeking province possessed the only tax-free provincial city in the kingdom. All the income went to the Ling family that Ling Hogong came from. Just this was a great glory for the Ling family. There was an extremely large and grand manor in the center of the provincial city. The manor was where the greatest clan of the province, the Ling family, stood. A white-robed young man walked towards the entrance of the Ling family slowly. Stop. This is the estate of the Ling family. Do not loiter around. Before the young man could even approach the entrance of the Ling family, the guard stopped him at the entrance. The young man did not stop. Under the glares of the gods, he made his way to the entrance at ease. He said to the guards in an approachable manner, "Please pass on the message that Jian Chen of the Tian Yuan clan has come to visit. The patriarch has ordered that all uninvited guests must be turned down." The guard glared at Jian Chen as he said without minding too much. However, before the guard had finished speaking, he came to a sudden halt. A great change occurred in his eyes at that moment as he stared at Jian Chen in disbelief. He said in surprise, "Wait. What did you just say? The Tian Yuan clan? Which Tian Yuan clan? Is it the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province?" Jian Chen smiled. "Correct. The Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province." The expressions of the guards immediately changed when they heard that he was from the Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province. They stopped glaring at Jian Chen, and their eyes became filled with reverence. "Esteemed guest, please wait. I will contact the patriarch immediately." A guard ran off in a hurry. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, was currently holding a clan meeting in the discussion hall of the clan. He sat on the patriarch's throne. He was stern and gave off a dignified bearing. Below him were the several dozen members of the upper echelon of the clan. At this moment, a guard rushed into the hall regardless of the rules. He said politely, "Patriarch, there's someone outside who claims to be Jian Chen from the Tian Yuan clan. He says he has come to visit our Ling family." "What? The Tian Yuan clan? Is it the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province?" The patriarch of the Ling family was just about to scold and punish the guard for not following rules. However, when he suddenly heard the reported news, his face immediately changed, and he became extremely stern. Chapter 18:18. Visiting the Ling family in respect to anything extremely shocking that had occurred in the divine kingdom of Pingtian lately. There was only the birth of the Tian Yuan clan apart from the appearance of God King Duanmu's dwelling. Almost no one knew of the origins of the mysterious Jian Chen. He fought the second overgod of the Dong'an province, Weiner Yan, 100 kilometers outside the provincial city after founding the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. Although the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had comprehended the laws of the sword, one of the laws known to have the greatest offensive power, Weiner Yan of the Weiner clan was not weak either. He had comprehended the laws of strength, which was also known as one of the laws with the greatest offensive power. The two of them were roughly at the same level in terms of comprehension, yet the result of the battle took those who paid attention by storm. Weiner Yan had actually suffered a miserable defeat. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had crushed Weiner Yan completely, emerging with no injuries at all. Not only did the results of the battle shake up the entire Dong'an province, but it also caused an uproar in the entire Divine Kingdom and the neighboring Divine Kingdoms for some time. Jian Chen had displayed his strength to the world through his battle against Weiner Yan. At the same time, many people witnessed his strength clearly. As a matter of fact, countless people labeled Jian Chen as the greatest among the 6 great provinces of the Divine Kingdom. They meant the strongest in the 36 provinces when they said greatest. The patriarch and the members of the upper echelon from the Ling family immediately became stunned when they heard that a person of the Tian Yuan clan had come to visit. Clearly, they were extremely taken aback. At this moment, the patriarch of the Ling family seemed to think of something. His face suddenly changed, and he stared at the guard sharply. He asked urgently, "What did you say? Who came to visit?" The guard did not tarry at all. He immediately repeated himself, Patriarch, the person said he was Jian Chen of the Tian Yuan clan. Jian Chen. Jian Chen. Is he? The guard seemed to understand as well when he reached the end of those words. His face changed drastically. At the same time, panic and disbelief flooded his face. At this moment, he could not help but think about how he had glared at the visitor. Jian Chen. Isn't he the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? Are you sure you've heard correctly? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has actually come to visit our Ling family by himself. Are you sure that's correct? We all know how great the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is. Moreover, our Ling family has no ties with his Tian Yuan clan, so why has he come to our Ling family? In particular, why has he come personally? At this moment, the discussion hall was thrown into an uproar. All the members of the upper echelon were excited and taken aback. At the same time, they felt disbelief. Who would ever dare to use the name of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan falsely? Quick, let's go to receive him together. At the same time, contact all the elders of the clan. Since the ancestor is not here, we all must welcome his arrival with the greatest ceremony since the patriarch has come personally regardless of his status. Ling Majian stood up and called out to everyone. At the same time, he contacted all the elders in the clan secretly. At that moment, the patriarch contacted all the elders in the clan, regardless of whether they were in seclusion or not. With that, only a few seconds had passed in total. The elders of the clan were extremely fast. Even the elders who were in seclusion several kilometers away emerged in a split second after the patriarch's message. They quickly arrived before the patriarch. Very soon, all the important people of the clan and the elders arrived at the main entrance of the Ling family. They had arrived as quickly as they could. From afar, the patriarch of the Ling family saw Jian Chen waiting at the entrance. His eyes immediately narrowed, and he could not help but reveal reverence on his face. Although Ling Majian had never seen Jian Chen in person, he was still the patriarch of a clan with an over-god. He had managed to get his hands on an image of Jian Chen through various means, and he discovered that the person visiting was exactly the same. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, greets the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The patriarch's visit is an honor for our Ling family. Please forgive me if I have been slow earlier. Ling Majian bowed deeply towards Jian Chen and said politely. After all, the person standing before him was an over-god. An extremely powerful over-god in fact. Greetings to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The people of the Ling family all bowed towards Jian Chen deeply from behind the patriarch as well. Reverence filled all their faces. There were even a few of them who seemed unsettled. Jian Chen smiled indifferently. He did not act snobbishly. After greeting the people of the Ling family as well, he was invited to the discussion hall. The patriarch of the Ling family no longer sat on the patriarch's throne. Instead, he sat with Jian Chen and the elders and important figures of the Ling family. They served the best fruit and tea to receive Jian Chen. Jian Chen conversed with the people of the Ling family casually, but among everyone, only Jian Chen remained composed. Including the patriarch, everyone behaved extremely carefully when they interacted with Jian Chen, as they were afraid that they would offend the over-god. The members of the upper echelon and the elders all tried to get on Jian Chen's good side as well. Patriarch Ling, may I ask if there is any news regarding Ling Hogong? Jian Chen gathered his focus at this moment and began to ask about Ling Hogong. This was the main reason why he had come to the Ling family. Jian Chen admired Ling Hogong quite a bit. After they separated in God King Duanmu's dwelling, he had not seen him again, so he felt slightly worried for him. Ling Majian's face darkened when this matter was mentioned. He sighed gently. The ancestor hasn't returned ever since he left for God King Duanmu's dwelling. At the same time, he hasn't passed on any news, so even we have no idea about the ancestor. I only heard that the ancestor offended an extremely great organization for a sword in God King Duanmu's dwelling. Sigh. Ling Majian's face was filled with worry. When he learnt just how powerful the organization his ancestor had offended was, his face had paled on the spot. Chapter 1819, Movements of the Demon Cult. 1. I just hope that the organization won't pay attention to such a small matter. Otherwise, the Ling family would be in great trouble if they really did look into it, Ling Majian said sternly. Jian Chen sat there silently. He probably understood just how powerful the Empyrean demon cult was more than any other overgod in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even the peak organizations of the Cloud Plane would not dare to offend the Empyrean demon cult so easily. Ling Hogong really had taken quite a large risk for the sword. I hope that Ling Hogong can power up as quickly as possible after receiving God King Duanmu's legacy. Fortunately, he only offended the vice leader of the branch on the Cloud Plane and not the entire organization, Jian Chen thought. He did not want to see Ling Hogong dying at the hands of the Empyrean demon cult. In that past years, many unknown people have appeared in our sword-seeking province. Even though they are mainly deities, with a few at the origin realm, we've discovered under close surveillance that they've basically all come for our Ling family. We know this because they've all chosen inns that are closest to our clan. They seem to be keeping an eye on all our movements, the patriarch of the Ling family said extremely sternly. His voice contained much helplessness. He clearly knew that these people had come to keep an eye on the Ling family. Yet the clan simply did not dare to move so casually. This was because their ancestor was not present, and without their ancestor, everything they wanted to do became difficult in such a sensitive period of time. This was because they deeply feared that they would end up in big trouble if they captured a person to question and they turned out to be from a large organization. Not only would it fail to assist the Ling family, but it would bring in a storm instead. Unknown people? Jian Chen's eyes narrowed when he heard that. He thought, is it the Empyrean demon cult? Or are they from other clans with overgods? However, Jian Chen was also helpless about the situation the Ling family was currently facing. Although he admired Ling Hogong and wanted to help him, he sadly lacked the power to do so. Jian Chen did not remain in the Ling family for too long. After half a day, he stood up and bid farewell. Before he left, he gave a jade talisman to the patriarch of the Ling family and said nonchalantly, "A sliver of the power of my soul is contained within the jade talisman. If Ling Hogong returns or your Ling family encounters anything and needs my help, you can crush the talisman, and I will hurry over as quickly as possible." Jian Chen's actions stunned Ling Majian and the other people from the clan. They could not help but wonder what connection the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had with their ancestor, as he had come to the Ling family for the first time and offered so much assistance. He even left behind a method to contact him before leaving. Even though he had his suspicions, Ling Majian still behaved as if he was overjoyed. He accepted Jian Chen's talisman in a hurry and held it like treasure. He constantly thanked Jian Chen. Jian Chen departed from the sword-seeking province. After gaining his bearings, he directly headed off to the royal capital. Back in God King Duanmu's dwelling, he and Ling Hogong did not know each other at all, yet the latter dared to draw his sword against another overgod just for him. Jian Chen remembered this deeply. His short interaction with Ling Hogong afterwards had made him admire Ling Hogong's morales as well. How could he not help Ling Hogong now that he faced some trouble? Unfortunately, he was just too weak right now. He was up against the tremendous Empyrean demon cult, and he was completely helpless against them. Otherwise, he would not mind helping Ling Hogong solve his issues by personally taking Vice Leader Huayan's life. The great elder of the Empyrean demon cult was indeed very terrifying. As a matter of fact, he had reached a point where his might shocked Jian Chen. However, the Empyrean demon cult possessed so many branches and each branch possessed several vice leaders. As a result, there were several dozen vice leaders. It was also because of this that taking the life of a single vice leader would not be enough for the great elder to appear personally. Ling Hogong, this is all the help I can provide to you right now. I hope you take good care of yourself and power up soon, thought Jian Chen. However, what Jian Chen did not know was that as he left the sword-seeking province, the patriarch of the Ling family immediately entered a secret room layered with formations. The joy and excitement on his face had completely vanished. He stared at Jian Chen's talisman with uncertainty. A while later, he took out a jade box and placed Jian Chen's talisman inside the box carefully. At the same time, he cast layers of formations over the box and placed it in the center of the room gently. Then he left the room quietly without taking the box with him. Before long, Ling Majian arrived in a room that was even more secretive than the one before. He looked around carefully and only entered the room secretly after he confirmed there was nothing wrong. The moment he entered the room, powerful formations immediately covered the room. The formations were so powerful that they could even keep overgods busy for a while. Most importantly, the formations could cut off abilities such as the senses of the soul. Ling Majian was the only person in the gloomy room now. There was no one else inside. Ling Majian arrived at the center of the room and formed seals with both hands. He used a secret technique, and a complicated and profound formation gradually appeared on the ground. Ma Jian, has anything important happened in the clan for you to call me using this secret technique? At this moment, an ancient but lively voice rang out from the formation. An old man in white robes appeared in the formation. The old man was ruddy and sage-like. His eyes shone brightly, and his gaze was sharp like swords. Even though he seemed to be past his 80s, his posture was perfectly straight just like a drawn sword. He radiated with a powerful sword intent. To no surprise, the old man was Ling Hogong, who had gone missing for quite some time. Ancestor, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, had just come to visit earlier. The patriarch told Ling Hogong everything that had happened during Jian Chen's visit. Ancestor, when the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan left, he even gave me a jade talisman with a sliver of the power of his soul. He said that if you returned, or if the Ling family encountered any problems, I should crush the talisman. I was wondering if he was reliable and could be trusted? Ling Majian said carefully. I never thought that brother Jian Chen would have already founded a Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. It's just a pity that I can't move about freely, or I would definitely congratulate him personally. Ling Hogong sighed emotionally. It had already been several decades since he communicated with the clan. He had always remained in a secret place to cultivate and did not come in contact with the outside world. As a result, he only learnt about Jian Chen founding a clan now. Although I've only met brother Jian Chen recently, although there are deception and trickery everywhere in the saints' world, I personally believe that brother Jian Chen is a good person. He's definitely a trustworthy person. Although brother Jian Chen said he would help you, you must act accordingly. If the Ling family comes across any problems that even I cannot deal with, do not contact brother Jian Chen. Don't cause him any problems, understood? Ling Hogong said. Chapter 1820. Movements of the Demon Cult. 2. As the Ancestor Wishes. Ling Majian replied politely before ending the conversation with Ling Hogong. Ling Majian carefully left the secret room before returning to the room he had placed Jian Chen's jade talisman in. Ling Majian had stored the jade talisman from Jian Chen in a jade box covered by formations, and he had placed the box gently in the center of the room. Before, he was clearly cautious about Jian Chen. He was afraid that Jian Chen had planted tricks on the jade talisman to track all of his movements. As a result, he did not take the jade talisman with him when he contacted Ling Hogong. However, now that he had learnt that Jian Chen was trustworthy from Ling Hogong, he completely dismissed all his caution. He arrived in the center of the secret room, bent down, and picked up the jade box. He removed the formations on it before putting it away in his space ring sternly. He put it there so that he could keep it safe from any damage. At the same time, Ling Hogong sat on a mountain within an independent world. He had an ancient sword on his back. He stared at the formations that vanished gradually and sighed emotionally. I never thought that all my previous close friends would cut off all ties with the Ling family in such a straightforward manner despite what the Ling family is facing right now. Moreover, it is just because they're afraid of being pulled into trouble as well. And yet Jian Chen, someone I had only befriended recently, would come to my Ling family even though he ran the risk of drawing in problems from the Empyrean demon cult. Brother Jian Chen, I will remember your close support. Even though you've not provided any actual help yet, your intentions alone are enough. Ling Hogong sighed emotionally. Humph, what close support. Old man Ling, you're so old, and you're still looking for support and love. Why don't you go train the sword for Bao Bao? At this moment, a golden sword flew over from afar. It transformed into an illusionary girl. She seemed as perfect as a sculpture and extremely cute. However, she just happened to plant her hands on her hips and scold at Ling Hogong like an old man. A vein immediately bulged on Ling Hogong's forehead when he heard the sword spirit's words. He responded, "You're talking nonsense. Close support is close support. What has it got anything to do with love? Moreover, my state of mind has already passed the period of considering love long ago. How can you, a mere sword spirit, understand?" The sword spirit's cheeks bulged up in anger. She pointed a finger at Ling Hogong and yelled out, "How dare you, old man Ling? How dare you say that Bao Bao doesn't understand? How dare you? Bao Bao will show you how Bao Bao will teach you a lesson if you look down on Bao Bao." The sword spirit immediately controlled the sword to stab at Ling Hogong. Immediately, sword chi began to radiate, and golden light illuminated the surroundings blindingly. Even though the golden sword did not possess an owner, the sword spirit produced a might that was no weaker than an over-god. In fact, it was even much more powerful than many over-gods. Ling Hogong became stern. He deeply understood the power of the sword spirit, so he did not dare to behave carelessly. He immediately drew the sword on his back and yelled out, "Chaotic Heaven's sword style." A resplendent glow shone from Ling Hogong's sword and shot towards the sword spirit aggressively. If Jian Chen were present, he would have discovered that Ling Hogong was much stronger than before. Not only had Ling Hogong successfully advanced to mid-over-god, but his comprehension of the laws of the sword had advanced as well. Just the Chaotic Heaven's sword style allowed Ling Hogong to dominate most mid-over-gods. He would even be able to put up a fight against late-over-gods. Humph! Is this your Chaotic Heaven's sword style, old man Ling? You tarnish the name of the sword style when you use it. Bao Bao will show you just what the true Chaotic Heaven's sword style is, the sword spirit said scornfully. Suddenly, an even more powerful and purer sword chi shot out from the golden sword. As the sword chi shot out, the surroundings seemed to darken. The sword chi shone with so much light that it was enough to blot out the sun, moon and stars. Even the world paled in comparison. The sword chi seemed to have become the only existence in the world at that moment. When the two attacks collided, Ling Hogong's sword chi seemed as fragile as a vase. It shattered silently, and the sword spirit's attack continued onwards like it was unstoppable. It directly shot towards Ling Hogong. Swish! The sword chi flew over Ling Hogong's head. Although it did not injure him, it cut his hair. Ling Hogong seemed disheveled at that moment. He seemed to be in quite a sorry shape. It was to the point where his sage-like bearing had vanished long ago. My hair! Why, you sword spirit is just detestable. You go too far. Ling Hogong cursed furiously. He was in a horrible mood. To think that he, Ling Hogong, who was famed in the divine kingdom of Pingtian to the point where basically no one dared to offend him, would actually be forced to such a state by a sword spirit. Did you see it? That's the true Chaotic Heaven's sword style. Old man Ling, don't you dare say Bao Bao doesn't understand. Humph. The sword spirit appeared. Her hands were still planted on her hips, and her lips were pouted. She seemed rather cocky. Why, oh why, you're completely unreasonable. All you know is endless harassment. Ling Hogong said furiously. The sword spirit's cocky expression disappeared in the blink of an eye when she heard that. Her little face sank, and she glared at Ling Hogong furiously with her large beautiful eyes. She scolded. How dare you speak up to your superior? You speak ill of Bao Bao and even dare to call Bao Bao someone unreasonable who only knows endless harassment. Is Bao Bao someone like that? Old man Ling, looks like Bao Bao hasn't given you a good enough impression. Humph, Bao Bao will definitely teach you a solid lesson this time so that you know about my power. This time, Bao Bao will strike awe into you deeply, enough for you to gain a deep impression. You'll be shaking in fear the next time you see Bao Bao. The Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons was an organization similar to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. It was only separated from the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian by the Divine Kingdom of 9 Stars. However, the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons had completely lost its former glory and dignified bearing. Smoke rose up in various places across its great territory, and the flames of war burned. All the provincial cities had been reduced to ruins across the entire Divine Kingdom while blood formed rivers. The ground had been dyed red. Several dozen years ago, the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult attacked the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons. In just a few dozen years, the 9th army successfully took down all their provincial cities. Their army directly crushed towards the royal capital, surrounding the place completely. Now, the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons was reduced to a single, lonely, royal capital. The 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult was only composed of a few 100,000 people. This number was nothing before the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons army that spanned into the hundreds of millions. However, it was this exact army that completely crushed the huge army of the Divine Kingdom. The 9th army basically approached the royal capital like a hot knife through butter. Chapter 1821. Movements of the Demon Cult, 3. Now, the remaining forces of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons were stationed in the royal capital. They used their powerful formations and the treasures of the kingdom to fend off the 9th army. They had reached a temporary stalemate. The remainder of the Divine Kingdom was extremely powerful with their formations and treasures. Even though the Empyrean demon cult was far stronger than the Divine Kingdom, they struggled to take the royal capital immediately. However, both the Ninth Army and the residual forces of the Divine Kingdom understood that this stalemate would not last for too long. It was only a matter of time before the Ninth Army completely destroyed the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons. The news of the war between the Empyrean demon cult and the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons had spread long ago. Even though many organizations found the Empyrean demon cult repulsive, they were all filled with a sense of helplessness from how powerful the organization was. As a result, even when the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons had been completely surrounded by the Empyrean demon cult, even when the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons requested for assistance, no one went to help them. This was because the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons was up against the terrifying Empyrean demon cult. Even though they could easily hold off the Ninth Army or even destroy it if they worked together, no one dared to take action. There was still the Eighth Army and the Seventh Army after the Ninth Army. There was even the First Army, which was enough to cause many people to pale in fear. As a result, many people sympathized with the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, but no one dared to do anything about it. At this moment, there was a reasonably sized military base 100 kilometers away from the royal capital. The base was not particularly big and dark clouds rolled in the sky above it. A demonic presence gathered there. Every single soldier in the base practiced extremely powerful and brutal demonic cultivation methods, so not only did they possess extraordinary cultivation levels, but their battle prowess was extremely great as well. It was exactly because of this that they could annihilate the gigantic army of the Divine Kingdom with just 100,000 people and make their way to the royal capital. There was a grand divine hall in the center of the base. The divine hall was completely red as if it had been covered in blood. A metallic smell of blood seemed to be present. Just standing outside the divine hall would be enough to overwhelm most people. At this moment, someone suddenly slammed a table heavily. A cold growl followed. 10 years. It has been 10 whole years, and our Ninth Army still hasn't gotten through to the royal capital. Do the three of you even have brains? Why don't you think about a way that will allow you to take down this place as soon as possible? I've stared at this shitty city for 10 years already. I get angry just from glancing at it now. The speaker was a burly man. He currently sat on the commander's seat as he stared at the generals around him. The burly man was the commander of the Ninth Army. He was known as the Blood God Hand, Yan Wuming. At the same time, he was an extremely powerful God King. The generals all became rather pale as they faced their furious commander. Clearly, they feared the commander very much, and their hair stood on end as a result. Yan Wuming. At this moment, a cold voice rang out in the hall. An illusionary and extremely handsome man in white robes appeared. The young man's face was slightly feminine. At first glance, he seemed like an indescribably handsome man, but looking at him again, he seemed more like an alluring beauty instead. If it were not for his chest, many people would have believed him to be a woman. Yan Wuming stared at the young man coldly, and the viciousness in his eyes did not decrease at all. His lips curled into a smile, and he said coldly, "I was wondering who bold enough to call me directly by my name had come. Turns out it's just Protector Zeng. Protector Zeng, you must not be bored enough to just come to check on what I'm doing since you projected yourself here from so far away. Hurry up, and say what you need to say. Once you're done, get out of my territory." "Humph, Yan Wuming, so mighty of you. I'm a protector of the cult. I can go wherever I want where the 9 armies are present. Just you aren't enough to tell me what to do," Protector Zhang said coldly. "I don't have the time to bicker with you, you unmanly and unwomanly transgender. Hurry up and say what you have to say, then get out of here," Yan Wuming said impatiently as a vicious light flickered through his eyes. "You." Protector Zhang was furious, and his face paled as a result. He pointed at Yan Wuming angrily, but seeing how fearless Yan Wuming was, he did nothing in the end. Even if were present personally, he would not be Yan Wuming's opponent, not to mention the fact that he was only a soul projection right now. Sucking in a deep breath, Protector Zing forcefully suppressed his anger and said coldly, "I've only come for one matter. Have you captured God King Duanmu's successor?" "Humph, can't you see I'm invading the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons? They have 3 God Kings. If I'm not watching over the entire operation, my 9th army would be reduced to a wreck by the 3 of them. Why the hell would I have the time to care about God King Duanmu's successor? Moreover, he's got nothing to do with me," Yan Wuming said coldly. Protector Zeng sneered, "Yan Wuming, I'll be honest, it's Vice Leader Huaiyan who cares about God King Duanmu very much. Before long, he'll emerge from seclusion. Once he finds out that God King Duanmu's successor is still alive and free, he'll lose his temper. I don't think that's something you can bear. Yan Wuming finally became stern. Clearly, he dreaded the vice leaders of the Empyrean demon cult very much. Yan Wuming, I've brought the message. What you do is up to you. Farewell. With that, Protector Zeng vanished. Yan Wuming sat on the commander's seat emotionlessly. A light flickered through his eyes as he thought about what he should do. A while later he passed an order to a general below him. Lu Shan, take some people and go capture Ling Hogong for meal. Chapter 1822. The royal capital of Pingtun. Yes, sir. A general below stood up and dropped one knee to the ground, accepting the orders with courtesy. Lu Shan left the divine hall. Without any hesitation, he summoned his vice-generals. General Lu, what's happening? Are we attacking the royal capital seeing how urgently you've summoned us? Very soon, two burly men in tight black robes strode over from afar as a demonic presence churned around them. Although they seemed like they were just strolling about leisurely, they could easily cross hundreds or even thousands of meters with each step. It was like the distance was nothing more than a few inches. They were still several kilometers away when they began talking, and it had taken them less than 5 seconds to finish their words. However, in just that short period of time, they had crossed the distance and appeared before General Lu Shan. You must have heard about the matter regarding God King Duanmu's successor. Just then, Protector Zeng personally came to ask about it in the form of a soul projection. As a result, the commander has ordered us to go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian to capture Ling Hogong. You two come with me, Lu Shan said to the two. Not only were these two his deputies, but they were also his brothers that had gone through thick and thin with him. Protector Zeng personally asked for this? Why do I remember that our commander has always been on bad terms with Protector Zeng? Why would he listen to him? One of the deputies asked in confusion after hearing Lu Shan's words. Lu Shan became stern and growled. Vice Leader Huai is about to emerge from seclusion. The expressions of the two deputies changed when they heard that. They could not help but become polite and show respect. We should not tarry then. General Lu, let's set off as soon as possible. Though this Ling Hogong sure has some prestige. He could raise the attention of Protector Zeng, and even get our commander to order us personally to capture him. Hee. Now that we three overgods are moving out personally, Ling Hogong shouldn't be able to complain about dying in vain. The two deputies sneered as a vicious light shone in their eyes. On the roads that extended in all directions outside the majestic royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, many cultivators gathered daily. Merchants flowed in and out of the huge city gates. From time to time, there would even be luxurious carriages pulled by rare, invaluable beasts that slowly made their way towards the royal capital. Without a doubt, the people within those carriages were people with quite some power. However, regardless of the greatness of their backgrounds, flying was forbidden when entering the royal capital. Even the organizations with overgods were affected. This was all due to their respect towards the royal capital. Only god kings could ignore the rules and directly fly into the city. Hold on to it. That is your pass into the city. Remember, you have to pay 10 low-grade divine crystals for every day you spend within the royal capital. Otherwise, the guards of the city will take you away, a guard explained to Jian Chen outside the city gates as he handed a medallion to Jian Chen. Jian Chen entered the city after taking the medallion. What dense origin energy! Compared to the provincial city of the Dong'an province, it's several times more. Not only is there quite a large vein of divine crystals below the royal capital, but there are also formations in the city that draw over all the origin energy in the surrounding radius of 10,000 kilometers. What extravagance! Jian Chen strolled through the streets of the royal capital as he observed the surroundings in interest and studied the layout of the city. Now that his comprehension of the laws of the sword had reached the level of late overgod, his perception was far greater than before. He could see through many hidden things with just a single glance. The entire city is enveloped by an extremely vast formation. Every single street and store is connected to the formation, causing the entire city to become as tough as steel. Even battles between overgods would not be able to create any damage to the structures in the city. The huge formation has already reached the level of god kings. Only god kings can smash through it. And aside from the defensive formations, there's also trapping and killing formations in there. With these formations, even god kings would probably fail to leave unscathed if they came to make trouble. Jian Chen marveled from the bottom of his heart. The royal capital was so powerful that it made him sigh emotionally after seeing it. He thought about how he would be truly free of worries if the formations of the provincial city in the Dong'an province were so powerful. At this moment, Jian Chen came to a halt. He casually glanced past a building that he was about to pass by, and he immediately caught sight of the 3 words, True Sword Pavilion. They were written in a fancy font. Vaguely, a sharp sword chi seemed to surge out. Clearly, the place was a shop that specialized in flying swords. After pausing for a moment, Jian Chen entered without any hesitation at all. The pavilion was filled with a great collection of various flying swords. Small groups of people gathered within the large store as they studied the swords like gentlemen. They would shake their heads in disappointment at times, and they would also nod and praise at other times. A few pretty women received them as customers politely with business-like smiles, presenting swords to them patiently. Among them, there was a group that stood out the most. They had basically become the center of attention in the shop, attracting the gazes of everyone present. The group consisted of 2 women and 1 young man. One of the women possessed devastating beauty. Not only was her beauty and bearing extraordinary, but she also possessed an otherworldly charm. Her expression was gentle, making her seem quiet. A single glance was enough to make people feel warm inside. The other woman also possessed extraordinary beauty. Her face was filled with an uncontainable sense of arrogance. From her curled lips, she was clearly a rude and unreasonable woman. The young man was dressed in luxurious robes and was extremely handsome. However, his face was filled with arrogance as if he looked down on everyone. Evidently, he was a wastrel from a powerful clan. A few guards stood behind each of them. Even though they were only at the peak of reciprocity, they were clearly not nobodies. At this moment, the young man smiled as he spoke gently to the soft-spoken woman beside him. Uncontainable adoration filled his eyes. Chapter 1823. True Sword Pavilion. The other arrogant woman could not help but become slightly annoyed when she saw how the young man treated her sister so lovingly, while ignoring her. Her face darkened slightly. "Welcome, young master. How may I be of service?" At this moment, a gentle voice rang out from behind. A graceful female employee who seemed to be in her 20s went up to receive Jian Chen. She smiled slightly and behaved extremely politely. Jian Chen glanced past the collection of flying swords casually. He showed some disappointment and asked the lady, "Do you have any better swords? Such as high quality, or even better, supreme quality?" Jian Chen's flying snow sword had been destroyed long ago. In the past few years, he never had a sword that suited him. One reason was because it was impossible to find a better flying sword in the place like the Dong'an province, and also because medium-quality saint artifacts were no longer of any use to him with his current strength. Even high-quality saint artifacts would not be able to last him for very long. Only supreme-quality saint artifacts would suit him. However, even a high-quality saint artifact had never appeared in the provincial city of the Dong'an province, so let alone a supreme-quality saint artifact. "What? You're looking for a supreme-quality flying sword?" The lady who received Jian Chen immediately changed in expression when she heard him and cried out in disbelief. Her cry immediately drew over the attention of the other customers in the store. Immediately, they all turned their heads over and stared at Jian Chen in surprise. Even the 2 beautiful women and the young man who seemed to be a wastrel looked at Jian Chen. Did I really just hear that? Really? Someone actually wanted to buy a supreme-quality saint artifact? Surely I've heard wrong. There's actually someone who wants to buy a supreme-quality saint artifact. Where has this country bumpkin come from, wanting to buy a supreme-quality saint artifact as soon as they enter the store? I'm laughing my ass off. What does he think a supreme-quality saint artifact is? Does he think it's any old item you can find off the street? Or does he really not know just how valuable a supreme-quality saint artifact is? The young man could not help but burst into laughter. His voice was filled with mockery and recklessness. "Pfft, this is just hilarious. Ha 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 ha, I'm really laughing my head off." As the young man laughed, the arrogant woman could not help but laugh aloud as well. She stared at Jian Chen like she was looking at an idiot. Even the beautiful quiet lady could not help but smiled slightly as she studied Jian Chen closely. However, when the young man saw her smile, his face immediately sunk heavily. A sliver of coldness appeared in his eyes and he swore inside. God damn it. Ruru's actually smiled. She's actually smiled. I've pursued her for so long but she's never smiled at me before, yet just a single sentence from this country bumpkin who can from who knows where has made her smile. God damn it. At this moment, the young man's gaze towards Jian Chen became laced with some ill intentions. The flames of envy burned within his gaze. Bastard! Not only can this country bumpkin make Ruru smile, he just happens to be handsome as well. Damn it! Screw him. The young man became furious as his gaze gradually turned into a glare. Jian Chen frowned. He glanced past the young man and woman who laughed at him. At the same time, he realized inside that he had probably underestimated the value of supreme quality saint artifacts. Don't you have any supreme quality saint artifacts for sale here at all? Jian Chen asked the lady. The lady looked at Jian Chen strangely. Even though she had already labeled Jian Chen as a person who definitely did not come to buy swords, she still replied politely, "Young master, I must disappoint you. There are indeed no supreme quality saint artifacts here. Let alone our true sword pavilion. Probably even the entire kingdom doesn't have any place that sells it. This is because probably only the divine king His Majesty possesses a supreme quality saint artifact." Supreme quality saint artifacts are actually that valuable? Jian Chen murmured. His breath had been taken away secretly. The value of supreme quality saint artifacts far exceeded what he anticipated. The lady who received Jian Chen rolled her eyes when she heard what he had said. She felt extremely miserable inside. He actually did not even know the value of a supreme quality saint artifact and still wanted to buy it. Was he not the standard country bumpkin? Haha, he doesn't have any idea just how valuable a supreme quality saint artifact is. He has no idea about them and probably hasn't even seen one in his life before. Yet he dares to speak so boldly that he wants to buy one? I'm laughing my head off. This is the first time I've seen someone so queer in my entire life. He probably doesn't even have the power to use a supreme quality saint artifact if he really did get his hands on one. The arrogant woman giggled as disdain filled her eyes. Jian Chen frowned. Even with his current level of cultivation, he had no interest in fussing over things with a mere deity. However, after being made fun of time and time again, no one could remain in a good mood. He immediately stared at the woman coldly and said nonchalantly, "Lady, whether I've seen a supreme quality saint artifact or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. Even if I really can't use one, what has it got to do with you?" The arrogant woman glanced at Jian Chen with deep disdain. She did not reply to him, as if Jian Chen had no right to hold a conversation with her. She turned towards the soft-spoken woman beside her and said, "Sister Ruru, let's go. Let's ignore this country bumpkin. No matter how handsome he appears to be, he can't hide the truth of being a country bumpkin." The arrogant woman paused there and glanced at Jian Chen again with disdain. She continued, "Even if it's all acting, it'll explain that he has other intentions for everything he's done. Without a doubt, that intention would be to attract Sister Ruru's attention, or even try steal Sister Ruru's heart slowly. But he's underestimated Sister Ruru far too much. Does he think that his petty tricks can get past us? Instead, he's only worsening his impression." The arrogant young man nodded constantly. He said, that's right. Xiao Xue's very correct. Ruru, we've seen all the swords on the ground floor. They're not suitable for you. Let's go to a higher floor instead. Maybe we can find a suitable sword for you there. The young man did not want to remain on the same floor as Jian Chen any longer. As soon as he thought of how the country bumpkin had made Ruru smile, he felt greatly threatened, regardless of why Ruru had smiled. Chapter 1824. A member of the Yang family, he would not have minded it too much if that country bumpkin was nothing too special in terms of appearance, but he just happened to be even more handsome than himself. He felt even more unhappy when he sensed the great confidence that the country bumpkin exuded. The girl called Ruru nodded gently. She seemed gentle and quiet such that all her actions made her seem like the daughter of a large family. She did not give off any sense of arrogance. After staring at Jian Chen again to study him, she went upstairs with the other two. The young man just happened to see Ruru's actions, so his face immediately became even uglier. He glared at Jian Chen angrily before going up. Jian Chen completely ignored all of this. With his increase in strength, His mental state had changed gradually as well. The wastrel from a large family who was only a deity at most just seemed like an immature child in his eyes. Was an adult supposed to get into an argument with a child after being insulted? That would just be petty. Moreover, he knew that he really had been a little too abrupt in asking for supreme quality saint artifacts as soon as he made it through the door. Then do you have any high-quality flying swords? Jian Chen asked again. He could only change his request seeing how supreme quality flying swords were unavailable. The lady who received Jian Chen glanced at the few people who had already gone upstairs. All of their backgrounds were terrifying. Clearly, she had become slightly impatient towards Jian Chen's question, but she did not show it at all, as she had gained a rough idea that Jian Chen had probably mentioned supreme quality saint artifacts to attract the attention of the girl called Ruru. Now that he asked about high-quality saint artifacts, it was probably an excuse so that he could go upstairs as well. Young master, our store just happens to have a few high-quality saint artifacts, but they're all upstairs. The lady maintained her business smile and did not show a trace of what she was thinking. Take me there, Jian Chen said without any hesitation at all. He truly lacked a suitable weapon right now. Yes, young master. Please follow me. The lady was filled with contempt inside, but she still led Jian Chen to the next floor extremely politely. Jian Chen found the three people with just a single glance as soon as he arrived on the next floor. They were currently choosing a flying sword with great attentiveness under the protection of their guards. The three people clearly discovered Jian Chen as well. The young man's face immediately sank, and he roared out furiously, "Brat, you really know how to stick around. You're following us wherever we go. If you're clever, piss off, or don't blame me for being impolite." The young man believed that everything that had happened with Jian Chen was a coincidence back on the first floor. However, after listening to the arrogant woman's words, he partially believed that Jian Chen had only come to the True Sword Pavilion to draw Ruru's attention. In fact, he had hurriedly proceeded to the next floor with Ruru so that Jian Chen would not be able to capture her attention too much. However, he never thought that Jian Chen would actually follow them up as soon as they went to the next floor. It only consolidated his thoughts. He believed that Jian Chen had come for Ruru. Ruru was his beloved goddess. How could he let someone that was just as handsome as him garner her attention? As a result, he made up his mind to not let Jian Chen stay no matter what. The arrogant woman also showed some impatience when she saw Jian Chen come up as well. However, she then seemed to think of something. A gleam of light flickered through her eyes. The person that Yang Tai truly likes is Ruru. As long as Ruru remains unwed, Yang Tai will never give up. That person seems competent after all. If he can really steal Ruru's heart, it'll be fantastic for me. At the very least, Yang Tai can give up on Ruru. As soon as she thought of that, not only did the arrogant woman stop feeling annoyed by Jian Chen's presence, but she even became slightly eager for Jian Chen to steal Ruru's heart. Yang Tai clearly wants to move against him now. With Yang Tai's background, that person is in big trouble. I have to help him, thought the woman. Just when she wanted to assist Jian Chen to break free from the situation, she heard Jian Chen's voice ring out. Don't you think too highly of yourself? I've come here to buy a sword, and it's a complete coincidence that we're up here together. How can you say that I'm following you? Moreover, I'd suggest you watch your mouth, or you'll be making trouble, Jian Chen said calmly and slightly coldly. As the saying went, even the kindest of people could become displeased. Even though Jian Chen despised falling to the same level as people like him, he could only do something about it and teach them a lesson if they crossed his bottom line. Jian Chen's somewhat threatening words stunned all the people on the floor. They all glanced over and stared at him in disbelief. The lady who had brought Jian Chen to the floor paled slightly. She knew exactly what background the young man possessed. It was one of the greatest clans in the royal capital. Few people were willing to offend them. Isn't that person just too reckless and fearless? Doesn't he know who he's threatening? It's the young master of the Yang family, the lady thought to herself. She was at a loss about whether bringing Jian Chen up was a mistake or not. The outcome of offending the Yang family was never good. For a moment, even the young man was dumbstruck. He stared at Jian Chen in a daze and still seemed to be at a loss. This was the first time someone had threatened him. Jian Chen ignored everyone's surprise. He arrived before a few high-quality swords by himself and began studying them carefully. He could tell with a single glance that there were only 4 high-quality flying swords on the floor. Although there were quite a few other swords, they were all medium quality. At the same time, 2 of the 4 high-quality swords possessed an attribute. They respectively shone with a dazzling, fire-red light and an earthen yellow light. A powerful white glow surrounded the other 2 swords. From outside, they only seemed to be balls of dazzling white light, making it very difficult to see the swords themselves. Jian Chen's eyes shone. He studied the 2 swords without blinking at all. He was able to see through the light emitted and observe the swords hidden inside extremely clearly. How much for this sword? Jian Chen pointed at one of the high-quality swords and asked the lady serving him. It was also at this moment that Yang Tai finally returned to his senses. His face sank, and he became furious. He pointed at Jian Chen and bellowed out, "How dare you threaten me? Do you know who I am?" As Yang Tai called out, the guards he had brought with him began to move as well. They all surrounded Jian Chen and glared at him viciously. Although they were only at the peak of reciprocity, even a few deities or gods would not dare to touch them in the royal capital. This was because touching them would be offending the Yang family. And the Yang family was a clan that was particularly prideful. Chapter 1825. The Flying Sword, Startling Rainbow, Bring me his tongue. I don't want him to be able to speak after today. Then break his limbs and take him back to the clan. I want him to understand the consequences of threatening me. Yang Tai ordered the guards. Yes, young master. The guards all responded. Cold light flickered through their eyes as they moved against Jian Chen in an attempt to capture them. All of them were extremely well trained. They worked together extremely cohesively. Clearly, they had done similar things countless times before. However, just when their hands were about to touch Jian Chen, a stream of white light flickered. The white light was extremely small. It was only the size of a finger, but it appeared at an unbelievable rate. With their strength at the peak of reciprocity, they had failed to even sense its appearance before it vanished again. In the next moment, all the guards felt a heart-wrenching pain from their arms. They could not help but cry out miserably. Blood spurted out like fountains from where their shoulders were. The gods had all lost their arms, having been severed unknowingly. The eyes of the people on the floor all narrowed before widening. They stared at the armless guards in disbelief. They were all filled with shock. At the same time, they also experienced some confusion and doubt. None of them were powerful. Apart from the girl called Ruru, who was an early deity, everyone else was at reciprocity. They were unable to sense the appearance of the light at all with their strength. As a result, they had no idea just how the guards had lost their arms. They only saw the guards reach out towards Jian Chen. However, just before their arms were fully extended, their arms tore free from their bodies without any prior signs at all. The limbs directly fell to the ground. It was extremely strange. Only the girl called Ruru managed to sense the flash of white light with her strength as a deity. Disbelief filled her eyes. She stared at Jian Chen without blinking at all as he remained standing there in his white clothes. He remained composed. She also failed to see Jian Chen do anything. As a matter of fact, Jian Chen had not even moved a finger from what she could see. However, she clearly knew that the severed arms of the guards were directly related to Jian Chen. The guards all paled and shrieked out in pain. Combined, their voices were deafening. Let alone the entire store, but even the people outside on the streets could hear their shrieks clearly. Jian Chen frowned. If you want to shriek, go downstairs. Don't get in the way of me buying a sword. With that, Jian Chen kicked out a few times without any mercy at all, sending the guards out of the window as if they were unwanted. They landed on the street outside heavily. His actions immediately caused the lady who served him to pale. She thought, that's it, I'm done for. This person has completely offended the Yang family. The Yang family will never just leave the matter like this. Although it has got nothing to do with me, I was the one who brought him upstairs after all. Even I probably won't be able to avoid the punishment of the Yang family. Why, you actually injured my guards. Do you know who I am? I am the young master of the Yang family. Yang Tai paled in anger as he pointed at Jian Chen. He was absolutely furious. The Yang family? Jian Chen's expression remained the same. He could not help but study the young man carefully. He asked, is it Yang Kai's clan? Yang Tai's face lit up when he heard that. He thought that Jian Chen was afraid now, so pride immediately filled his face. He said arrogantly, that's right, Yang Kai is my great-grandfather. Looks like you haven't exactly been living under a rock, seeing how you know about my great-grandfather. If you're clever, kneel immediately and lower your head 9 times to the ground. I won't make things difficult for you today. Yang Tai could only be blamed for failing to see the small details here. He failed to see how Jian Chen remained completely the same when he mentioned Yang Kai's name. Jian Chen's expression did not change at all. He did not reveal even a trace of fear. He even mentioned Yang Kai's name directly without adding something like senior as other people would. Your great-grandfather does indeed have some strength, but who knows just how many people are more powerful than your great-grandfather. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. You'll only end up slaughtered, Jian Chen said calmly. His voice was somewhat cold as he continued. I'll let you go this time because of your great-grandfather, but only this one time. That's right. There are many people far more powerful than my great-grandfather in the world, but you're not one of them. Moreover, you don't even have the right to talk to me with your lowly status. However, I will remember what you said today. I would like to see just how much longer you can continue to act so arrogantly, Yang Tai said angrily. He knew that he was not Jian Chen's opponent, so he could only return and rally some other people. Afterwards he turned towards Ruru and said, Ruru, let's go. Young Master Yang, I still haven't chosen my sword yet. You can go back first, the gentle Ruru said to Yang Tai. Yang Tai's face immediately became extremely ugly. Waving his sleeve, he turned around and left with a sunken face. Yang Tai, wait for me. The arrogant woman bid farewell to Ruru in a hurry, and immediately chased after Yang Tai with her own guards. How much for this sword? Jian Chen looked at the sword that had caught his attention again, and repeated the question to the lady serving him. The lady stood by Jian Chen's side. At this moment, she was tempted to break into tears. She no longer cared about whether Jian Chen had really come to buy a sword or not. Even though she would receive a significant reward if she really sold a high-quality flying sword, she no longer cared about that now. She only wished for Jian Chen to leave sooner and draw away the Yang family's attention. The true sword pavilion did not fear the Yang family with their background, but she was just an employee without any background at all. It was also her who brought Jian Chen upstairs. As such, if the Yang family decided to look into the matter, she would definitely be in trouble. However, she just happened to not be bold enough to say all this. Her customer was a person who did not even fear the Yang family, so he definitely came from a large clan as well. She could not afford to offend someone like that either. Young master, the flying sword is called Startling Rainbow. Its price is 6 million high-grade divine crystals, the lady said uneasily. What? 6 million high-grade divine crystals? Jian Chen was shocked when he heard the price. When he bought the flying snow sword in the Dong'an province, it was only 100,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Chapter 1826. Greedy the flying snow sword was a medium-quality saint artifact, while the startling rainbow sword was only a high-quality saint artifact. They were only a single tier apart, but the price was several hundred times more. This shocked Jian Chen very much. Jian Chen stared at the sword that was surrounded by dazzling light and sword qi. He fell silent in that moment as the light in his eyes flickered. He was hesitating. Clearly, the price of the sword had far exceeded Jian Chen's expectations. It actually required a terrifying amount of 6 million high-grade divine crystals. They were high-grade, nothing like mid- or low-grade divine crystals. He still possessed the 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal, which was more than enough to purchase the sword. However, he originally planned to break up the divine crystals into mid- and low-grade ones so that Shangguan Mu'er and the others could use them to cultivate. He had not planned to spend so many here. 6 million high-grade divine crystals were equivalent to 600 million mid-grade divine crystals. Such an amount was enough for everyone to cultivate until they were gods. Of course, that was given that their comprehension of laws could keep up with their cultivation. Young master, the startling rainbow sword is actually relatively cheap among the high-quality saint artifacts. Many better high-grade saint artifacts are worth billions. May I ask if the young master is still interested in purchasing this high-quality saint artifact? The lady asked. Although she spoke very politely, there was a sense of urgency in her voice that anyone could tell. Her inquiry at the end even slightly sounded like she was chasing Jian Chen away. It was like she was asking him to hurry up and buy the saint artifact or get lost. This was because Jian Chen had offended the Yang family. If Jian Chen remained, she would be pulled into the matter as well, so she naturally hoped for Jian Chen to leave sooner so that the Yang family would direct their attention elsewhere. Jian Chen also seemed to notice the underlying message in the lady's voice. He glanced at her and said nonchalantly, "Medium-quality saint artifacts are only around 100,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Why are high-quality saint artifacts so pricey? Looks like you don't understand the value of high-quality saint artifacts." At this moment, a gently voice rang over. It was a very natural and pleasant voice. The girl called Ruru looked over. The light in her limpid eyes shone as she stared at Jian Chen very calmly. She said, "The reason why there's such a great disparity in price between medium and high-quality saint artifacts is because high-quality saint artifacts are very difficult to forge, and the materials required are extremely difficult to find. In the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, there are many people who can forge medium-quality saint artifacts. They're present in basically all provincial cities. As a matter of fact, there are even some provincial cities with several such artifacts. However, people who can forge high-quality saint artifacts are almost mythical existences. Even including the neighboring kingdoms, there are only 4 or 5 of them. On the other hand, there is not a single person like that in our divine kingdom of Ping Tian. All the high-quality saint artifacts basically come from other divine kingdoms, which is why they're so valuable." The girl called Ruru stared at Jian Chen deeply after saying that. She continued, "The supreme quality saint artifacts that you wanted earlier are even more valuable. Not only are they hundreds of times more valuable than the startling rainbow sword, but they might even 1,000 times more valuable. There's basically no supply." "Thank you for informing me." Jian Chen clasped his fist towards Ruru. He had finally gained some understanding towards high and supreme quality saint artifacts from Ruru's explanation. "There's no need to be so polite, young master. It's just that you've offended the Yang family earlier. With how the Yang family normally acts, they'll never let this matter go. It's best if you leave this place sooner. Even if you possess some background and do not fear the Yang family, Yang Tai probably won't let the lady who brought you here off so lightly," Ruru said to Jian Chen nonchalantly. Jian Chen frowned when he heard that. The lady that received Jian Chen indeed paled in fright at that moment. Blood drained from her face, and even her body trembled gently. She was filled with fear. "I'm buying the sword," Jian Chen said to the lady. With a wave of his hand, 6 blocks of high-grade divine crystal directly fell to the ground, producing a deep thud. The lady immediately became stunned. She stared at the 6 blocks of divine crystal in a daze as her breathing became rather ragged. At the same time, she was greatly taken aback. She had never expected Jian Chen to actually purchase the high-quality saint artifact. Moreover, Jian Chen had not even raised an eyebrow when he took out 6 million high-grade divine crystals. Even the girl called Ruru became slightly surprised. She did not think Jian Chen would possess so many divine crystals either. Even to a few overgods, 6 blocks of high-grade divine crystal was a tremendous sum. "Please wait, young master. I'll call the manager over this instant." The lady hurried off. Excitement and joy filled her face. She had just successfully sold a high-quality saint artifact. Not only would her commission be an astronomical figure, but it was also enough for her to receive a promotion. Once she possessed a certain level of status in the True Sword Pavilion, there would be no need for her to worry about any problems from Yang Tai. Very soon, the manager hurried over and successfully completed the transaction with Jian Chen. Before long, Jian Chen took the startling rainbow sword he had just purchased out of the store. He found a large luxurious inn and directly reserved their best room. He closed the door and hung the sign "Secluded Cultivation" on the door. After doing so, he began to refine the startling rainbow sword without pausing during the entire process at all. "With this high-quality saint artifact, my strength will increase by quite a lot. It's just a pity that I can't find any supreme quality saint artifacts," Jian Chen thought. He found it to be rather regretful. After thinking this, he activated the defensive formations in the room. As Jian Chen refined the startling rainbow sword, Yang Tai also hurried back to the True Sword Pavilion with his group of people from the Yang family. Not only were there several deities in the group, but there was even a god elder. The True Sword Pavilion did not dare to give the furious people of the Yang family the cold shoulder. The manager himself appeared and received Yang Tai with a smile. "Young Master Yang, unfortunately, you've come a little late. The person you're looking for has already left. They're not in our True Sword Pavilion." "Humph, I will obviously search the entire city for that person. But there was a lady in your true sword pavilion who worked with him. I have to take her away, Yong Tai said coldly. He did not dare to barge in with the manager standing at the door. Apologies, young Master Young. She just sold a high-quality saint artifact, making a great contribution to our business. As a result, she has been promoted to assistant manager. You can't take her away, the manager of the True Sword Pavilion replied politely. What? She sold a high-quality saint artifact? Did that person really buy a high-quality saint artifact? Yong Tai was surprised inside, but he revealed a huge grin on his face soon after. Young Master, since that person can purchase a high-quality saint artifact, he must have quite an impressive background. He might even be from a clan with an over-god. You can't act recklessly in regards to this matter. You can't offend such a powerful clan over something as petty as this, the elder of the Young family said from beside Yong Tai. No. This matter relates to the pride and dignity of our Young family. How can we just let the matter end like this? I have to find this person, Yong Tai said coldly. Joy filled his eyes as he sniggered, though, if he's willing to hand over the high-quality saint artifact, I'll forget this ever happened. Chapter 1827. Knocking on the door, this person paid a huge price to obtain that high-quality saint artifact. He must be treating it like a treasure. Taking it from him probably won't be an easy feat, the god from the Young family said. He frowned slightly as he sensed an ill omen in regards to Yang Tai's intentions. Before Yong Tai could follow up, the elder continued. Moreover, this person definitely isn't simple since he possesses such great wealth. Since he's bold enough to buy a high-quality saint artifact, he might actually possess the strength to protect it and prevent himself from being robbed right after the purchase. As a result, I can conclude that this person is either very powerful, or he comes from a clan or organization with an over-god. I just wonder which clan he is from. Young Master, high-quality saint artifacts are valuable, but it's just not a smart choice to offend a clan with an over-god over something like this. The elder of the Young family analyzed sternly. He did all that he could to persuade Yong Tai to not make trouble with Jian Chen. This was because he understood that the only people who were bold enough to buy a high-quality saint artifact before the eyes of the public either suffered from mental issues or possessed great confidence. The elder directly ignored the possibility of the person being a powerful expert because 6 million high-grade divine crystals was not something that any person could take out, particularly without the backing of a powerful clan. However, Yong Tai paid no attention to the elder's attempts at persuasion at all. He insisted on the same thing, speaking arrogantly. I don't know whether that person is from a clan with an over-god. You're only guessing as well. What if you've guessed incorrectly and that person not only lacks any particular background, but he lacks strength as well? That he was just lucky, finding the dwelling of a person somewhere and receiving some treasures and wealth from there? Moreover, the brat severed the arms of my guards in such a fearless manner. Humph. My Young family is a large clan within the divine kingdom of Pingtian after all. I have to redeem us. So what if he comes from a clan with an over-god? We're the Young family, don't forget. Yong Tai could not help but become proud when he mentioned the Young family. The Young family really did possess an extremely great status in the divine kingdom of Pingtian due to the existence of their ancestor. All the clans with over-gods in the divine kingdom possessed some fear towards the Young family. This was all because the ancestor of the clan was a late over-god, possessing status only second to the divine king and the grand imperial protector. Afterwards, Yong Tai immediately passed down orders to search for Jian Chen. With the power of the Young family in the royal capital, finding a person was naturally nothing difficult. They found the inn where Jian Chen had settled down in temporarily very soon. The entire room on the highest floor of the Perched Phoenix Inn, labeled Heaven, was covered by a formation. Jian Chen currently sat on the bed in that room as he refined the startling rainbow sword. He did not even consider that the young master of the Young family might become interested in the saint artifact he had just purchased. However, even if he knew, he would not feel afraid at all. The ancestor of the Young family, Yong Kai, was very powerful, having reached late over God. However, he had also reached late over God in terms of comprehension. All he lacked was cultivation. As a result, there was no reason for him to fear Yong Kai of the Young family. At this moment, Yong Tai had already surrounded the Perched Phoenix Inn with over 100 experts from the Young family. Not only were there many deities among them, but Yang Tai had even managed to bring a few god elders. Although Yang Tai's status as the young master would have never been enough to directly order the elders around, he still deserved some respect as a young master. Not to mention the fact that this matter was connected to a high-quality saint artifact. If they really could hand a high-quality saint artifact to their ancestor, it would be a matter of merit, and they would be rewarded handsomely. In regards to any problems that could be created, just how many people were willing to offend the Yang family with their current status? The person who bought the high-quality saint artifact severed the limbs of our guards. It was he who caused trouble first. We have a reason to make trouble. It's completely reasonable for us to take his high-quality saint artifact. One of the elders who hurried over later said seriously. Even though I haven't personally seen the overgods of the neighboring divine kingdoms, I have heard of them, so I possess some understanding towards them. There's only the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan that I don't really know, since he has only broken through recently. However, there's no one who matches the person who bought the high-quality saint artifact amongst all the overgods I know. As a result, I'm certain that this person isn't an overgod. Even if he's a god, he probably isn't from our kingdom because I basically possess information on all the gods in our kingdom, said a middle-aged man. He wore white robes and seemed like a scholar. Yang Tai immediately became overjoyed when he heard these words from the elder. He said, "Elders, let's go and find that person right now." The elders of the Yang family nodded happily and followed Yang Tai directly into the inn. Only the elder who tried to persuade Yang Tai earlier sensed that something was off, but now that the situation had developed to this point, he had run out of choices. He could only sigh to himself and follow them into the inn. As one of the most luxurious inns in the royal capital, the Perched Phoenix Inn naturally possessed some background. However, when the manager saw that these people were elders of the Yang family, he could only turn a blind eye. He did not dare to speak up. Even though the inn was the business of a clan with an overgod in the royal capital, there was nothing he could do. There really were very few people who dared to offend the Yang family, particularly over small matters like this. "It's here. That person is staying here." Yang Tai brought the elders before Jian Chen's room, and his voice was filled with some excitement. Without any hesitation, he immediately touched the formation. Jian Chen sat within the room with his eyes closed as the startling rainbow sword shone with resplendent light as the sword hovered before him. It emitted the invisible sharp sword chi of a high-quality saint artifact, filling the entire room. However, at this moment, the light that had always surrounded the sword suddenly vanished, revealing the sword itself. It was also at this moment that Jian Chen opened his eyes slowly. He stared at the startling rainbow sword before him calmly. After studying it closely, he could not help but show a sliver of delight. He murmured, "You'll be accompanying me in the future, startling rainbow sword." As he said that, Jian Chen's right hand touched the sword. At that moment, the sword just vanished all of a sudden, disappearing into Jian Chen's body. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the defensive formation outside the room. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. As soon as he put the sword away, he turned towards the entrance. His plain eyes gradually sharpened. Chapter 1828. A slight punishment. Not only could the formation for Jian Chen's room defend attacks from even gods, but it also functioned as a barrier that blocked sight and the senses of the soul. However, this only applied to those outside the formation. Inside, Jian Chen did not suffer these restrictions, so he could clearly observe what was going on outside through the formation. Looks like this little young master of the Yang family harbors resentment towards me from when I severed the arms of his guards. He actually directly brought 4 gods from his clan. Even in clans with overgods, gods possess quite some status. They're usually elders and stand above everyone else, receiving the respect of everybody. Yang Tai only suffered a slight embarrassment in the True Sword Pavilion, and he immediately brought 4 gods with him. Looks like they haven't come with good intentions. They probably want to redeem themselves. Are the people of the Yang family really so stubborn over such a worthless matter, where they are willing to send over so many people for just a wastrel? Jian Chen thought. He had seen the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai, in God King Duanmu's dwelling in the past. He was a very powerful overgod, having reached late overgod. He was one of the most powerful people among the several dozen overgods who entered the dwelling previously. Although he was not on any particularly good terms with Yang Kai, he was not on any particularly bad terms either. As a result, he was rather unwilling to fall out with him over these petty matters. The Yang family was one of the greatest clans in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian after all. It was a clan that stood in the same divine kingdom as his Tian Yuan clan. For the Tian Yuan clan, he was naturally unwilling to offend other clans with overgods for no reason, as it would lead to troubles for the clan. After all, it was impossible for him to remain in the Tian Yuan clan forever. He would leave one day. Of course, it was a whole new story if they came to provoke him time and time again. Jian Chen was unwilling to create trouble for the Tian Yuan clan, but he was not someone who feared matters like that. He would face these problems head-on when they came. With a wave of his hand, Jian Chen opened the defensive formation around the room. As soon as the formation was removed, the people from the Yang family learnt of it. They all beamed with joy, appearing to be extremely excited. It was as if they could already see a high-quality saint artifact before them. Yang Tai and the god elders immediately entered the room, while the deities stood guard outside. Among the 4 elders, one of them closed the door behind him as soon as he stepped in. However, he felt that this still was not enough, so he immediately cast down a formation around the room. Only after that did the elders nod in satisfaction. They felt like the operation this time could not fail. The high-quality saint artifact was basically theirs. Jian Chen calmly remained on his bed for the entire time. He watched everything unfold nonchalantly. However, his cold gaze explained what he currently felt. He felt nowhere near as calm as he appeared on the surface. They behaved so cautiously and came with ill intent. They definitely came for his sword. Fortunately, it was Jian Chen who sat there today. He felt no fear towards the Yang family. If it were another person who was not an overgod, the outcome would be as clear as glass. Brat, I never thought that we'd see each other so soon. Yang Tai glared at the seated Jian Chen as he sneered. Jian Chen directly ignored Yang Tai. He glanced past the gods of the Yang family and asked calmly, "You must have come for the high-quality saint artifact, right?" Seeing how Jian Chen did not even look at him, Yang Tai immediately became furious as he always placed great focus on his status. Before the elders could say anything, he directly called out coldly, "Brat, this is what you get for offending me." "That's right, we've come this time for the startling rainbow sword, and it won't be just the sword this time. We'll be taking you with us as well." Jian Chen immediately frowned. However, the elders silently studied Jian Chen, and they gradually became stern as well, as all of them had discovered that they could not see through his strength. In their eyes, Jian Chen seemed just like an ordinary person, without the presence of an expert at all. There were normally 2 situations that would lead to this. The first one was that the person possessed a great secret technique that could conceal their presence. As a result, gods or even overgods could not see through the cultivation of a deity. The other situation was that the difference in cultivation was simply far too great. All they needed to do was conceal their presence, and other people would not be able to sense it. The elders of the Yang family all studied Jian Chen for a while before reaching the same conclusion. This person definitely is not an overgod. If he were an overgod, he would possess the pride of one. He probably would have sent us out of the room already, but he has only remained there without doing anything at all. It is probably because he fears us. This person must be a god who concealed his presence using a secret technique. He might even be a deity. Has the Yang family reached such a level of boldness in the royal capital? Have they already achieved dominance in the royal capital? Jian Chen murmured to himself. However, Yang Tai's face changed when he heard Jian Chen's words. Yang Tai could not help but think about an awful memory of the past, and his face immediately sunk heavily. He lost his temper and roared out, "You're looking to die." Yang Tai directly swung his hand towards Jian Chen's face. He had completely no idea just whose face he was trying to slap right now. Even the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai, would never be bold enough to do something like this. This was because his action would create an irreconcilable grievance out of nowhere. It was one that would last until death. Jian Chen's gaze turned cold. He caught Yang Tai's hand easily and stared at him coldly. He said, "You sure are bold. Just this one action tempts me to claim your life. But I'll spare you because of your great-grandfather. You may have avoided death, but you still need to be punished." With a flash of light, Jian Chen severed Yang Tai's entire arm. Blood immediately began to spurt out like a fountain. Afterwards, Jian Chen pressed his hand against Yang Tai gently. With a miserable shriek, Yang Tai vomited blood and was sent flying out the window. A gleam of light flickered through the eyes of the elder who cast down the barrier. Immediately, a crack appeared and Yang Tai just happened to fly out through the crack. The elders did not stop this from happening. They had no good impression of Yang Tai, and his injuries would benefit them greatly instead. It would provide them with an even better excuses to move against Jian Chen. Once they brought the high-quality saint artifact back to the clan, even if the overgod behind this person came, they could use Yang Tai as an excuse for everything they did and avoid trouble. They also witnessed that Jian Chen was only a god at most through his moves this time as well, so they all became fearless. Yang Tai's miserable cries rang out from the street below while his blood had already formed a mess on the ground. It was very rare for people to get injured in the royal capital. In a short moment, Yang Tai's miserable cries had drawn over all the passers-by in the surroundings. Very soon, a large group of people gathered. They all pointed at Yang Tai, who was rolling in pain on the ground, and discussed softly. Isn't that the young master of the Yang family, Yang Tai? How has he ended up like that? Who is it that is bold enough to cut off the young master of the Yang family's arm? It doesn't matter who the person in the perched phoenix inn is, they're in deep trouble, he deserves it. Who knows just how many innocent girls lost their lives due to the young master of the Yang family? Now that he has ended up like this, he really does deserve all of it. The guards of the royal capital will arrive very soon. Yang Tai really is annoying sometimes. There really isn't a reason to blame you, except for the fact that he's the young master of the Yang family, after all. For the sake of the Yang family's dignity, we can't just drop this matter here. If the matter causes a large ruckus and attracts the attention of the ancestor, it'll be horrible. In the entire divine kingdom, there's probably no one, apart from the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xian Dou, and the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province, who can endure his anger. The barrier closed up again and isolated any sounds in the room. The god who had cast down the formation smiled as he continued to speak, acting like he was completely concerned for Jian Chen. However, I think we can become friends fast. Seeing how you've fallen under so much trouble, I'm willing to assist you in getting through it all. I just hope that you can cooperate. Chapter 1829. Jian Chen's bottom line. Jian Chen sneered when he heard the elder's words. He stared at the elder as if he was deep in thought and calmly said, "May I ask what this old mister is speaking of exactly by cooperating?" The old man was extremely experienced in life. Naturally, he noticed the faint sarcasm in Jian Chen's voice, but he did not mind at all. He smiled. "It's nothing difficult for you. All you need to do is hand over the high-quality saint artifact, the startling rainbow sword, you just purchased from the True Sword Pavilion. Only that will be enough for you to make up for your mistake of cutting off the young master's arm. Of course, I understand that you've paid quite a hefty price to buy the saint artifact. However, you have to understand just who you've offended this time. It's the young master of the Yang family. As a powerful clan within the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the Yang family naturally places much emphasis on their pride. As a matter of fact, they cannot allow any provocation to happen at all, and your actions today have gone far beyond mere provocation. If this matter isn't handled correctly, you'll become an enemy of the Yang family. Not only will you struggle to escape from the royal capital, but even the clan behind you will be dragged into the matter. Let alone the fact that no one dares to provoke the Yang family in the divine kingdom. We're famed even across the neighboring divine kingdoms." The old man smiled. As soon as he mentioned the possibility of becoming an enemy of the Yang family, he felt like victory was already in reach. He believed Jian Chen was done for. The Yang family really did possess such prestige and power. And this was all because of their late overgod ancestor, Yang Kai. I never thought that the glorious Yang family of the divine kingdom of Pingtian would do something like this. But do you really think I would just hand over the sword I spent 6 million high-grade divine crystals to purchase? Jian Chen asked. The old man smiled confidently, and his tone gradually became forceful as well. "Brother, you've offended the Yang family, so you must hand over the sword. Otherwise, the Yang family will not let you leave the city." Elder Ma is right. "Sir, it's best if you hand over the startling rainbow sword. We'll be able to guarantee you that the Yang family won't look into the matter of the young master's severed arm. Otherwise, we'll just have to make it difficult for you and make you come with us to the Yang family." A second elder spoke out. He was also an old man, and he looked at Jian Chen with hostility. High-quality saint artifacts are precious, but if you can't even keep your life intact, is there still any use for such a great weapon? Brother, you better think it through. After all, the Yang family is not to be trifled with. Even if you don't care for your life, you have to think about your clan. If you happen to anger the Yang family, and they directly wipe out your clan, it'll be horrible, the scholarly middle-aged man chimed in as well. He smiled and spoke calmly. However, there was a sense of coldness present in his voice. Only the last elder from the Yang family remained silent. He was the one who had followed Yang Kai to the True Sword Pavilion and tried to persuade him otherwise. His old eyes always remained fixed on Jian Chen. He felt that the person before him was nowhere as simple as the other elders believed him to be. Wipe out my clan? Jian Chen murmured, and his face gradually sank. Killing intent began to seep out from his eyes, and he did not make any effort to conceal it at all. If the three elders had only threatened Jian Chen himself, he would have never reacted so violently. However, they never ever should have threatened his clan. Not only were members of his family in his clan, but there were also his friends that he had gone through life and death with. They were Jian Chen's soft spot, as well as a bottom line that could not be crossed. Sensing the icy cold killing intent from Jian Chen, the four elders in the room looked at each other, and they all became extremely stern. The killing intent had actually made them shiver. Through the killing intent, the four of them gained a rough understanding of Jian Chen's strength. He was definitely more powerful than any single one of them. At this moment, Jian Chen moved. The bed that he sat on shook gently, while he had already become a faint blur. He appeared before the scholarly middle-aged man with unbelievable speed and directly grabbed his throat in a death grip. Only after sensing his throat being gripped tightly did the man see Jian Chen appear before him. His eyes widened dramatically while disbelief flooded his eyes. His heart churned. With his strength as a god, he was actually unable to put up a struggle against Jian Chen at all. He did not even see Jian Chen move. All he felt was that in a single instance, his throat had ended up in Jian Chen's grip. Who is this? Even I failed to sense anything when he moved. Even late gods can't achieve this. Is he an over-god? How is that possible? How can he be an over-god? The middle-aged man was utterly terrified. You dare to threaten to end my clan? Let alone you, a god. Even if your ancestor Yang Kai was standing before me, I would never let the matter slide. Jian Chen glared at the middle-aged man as he forced out each word before directly smacking the man's head with his hand. The clan was Jian Chen's bottom line. It was an existence that could not be touched. Even though he was not interested in becoming an enemy of the Yang family before, he needed to kill this person now because of how he had spoken. Bang! The middle-aged man's head directly shattered into pieces from Jian Chen's attack, and his soul was wiped out. Jian Chen released his hand from the man's throat and allowed him to collapse onto the ground. Afterwards, he turned his head towards the three other elders as if nothing had happened at all. He said emotionlessly, "Now, not only have I severed the young master's arm, but I've killed an elder of your Yang family. What are you going to do?" Chapter 1830. Guards of the royal capital. The three other elders collectively paled. They stared at Jian Chen in complete fear and disbelief as they staggered backwards uncontrollably. Jian Chen had moved far too quickly. Not only was he quick, but he had slain a god so easily as well. From just a single clash, an elder who was roughly as strong as them had died just like that before them. Let alone fighting back, he failed to even put up a struggle. He was truly as weak as an ant. The three remaining elders of the Yang family were not exactly stupid. Jian Chen was definitely not a god since he could kill someone around the same strength as them in such a quick manner. Even late gods would not be able to kill one of their companions so easily in front of the three of them. They would have plenty of time to interfere and save them. Why, you're an over-god." An elder stared at Jian Chen in terror as he said with a trembling voice. At that moment, he could only be described as drowned in fear. There was also some disbelief on his face. Although they had never seen all the over-gods in the surrounding divine kingdoms, they had heard a few rumors about each person at the very least, so they naturally possessed some information about the nearby over-gods. Although they would not be able to identify who the over-god was with a single glance, they could deduct their identity through various traces and unique characteristics. However, they failed to find anything that matched with an over-god they knew from Jian Chen. It's no longer important whether I'm a god or an over-god. What is important is that I've killed an elder of your Yang family. Moreover, I clearly heard you mention that the Yang family was a very prideful clan, so haven't I basically slapped the Yang family in the face? How does the Yang family plan on redeeming themselves? Do you still plan on getting me to hand over my newly purchased sword, or do you plan on making me stay here forever? Jian Chen sneered. He no longer had any positive impressions towards the Yang family after all that had happened. Although this was all caused by the elders acting on their own accord and was not really related to Yang Kai, the behavior of his clansmen was more than enough to let Jian Chen understand how Yang Kai was like as a person. If Yang Kai was a righteous person, his clansmen would never do something like this under his influence. No. Senior, this is all a misunderstanding. A complete misunderstanding. We didn't know that it was Senior who had paid a visit to the royal capital, so if we've offended you, we hope that Senior can be the bigger man and forgive the reckless actions of us juniors. We were ignorant and failed to recognize Senior. Yeah. It's all a misunderstanding. We hope that Senior can be the bigger person and spare us juniors. Elder Lu had it coming, which was why he died. It's no one else's fault. Our Yang family would never stand up for someone like him. The three remaining elders all shivered inside as they stared at Jian Chen's murderous gaze. They immediately lowered themselves and begged for mercy in fear. They seemed to be extremely sincere. They were unable to control whether the Yang family would look for trouble due to the death of an elder, nor could they interfere with the matter. However, they did know that they would probably end up just like Elder Lu if they did not act like this right now. The matter at hand was saving their own lives first. Jian Chen glared at the three elders. He said nothing as he sank into his thoughts. The three elders fell into utter silence as Jian Chen pondered. They even stifled their breaths. They stood there obediently, not daring to act recklessly. They understood that everything they did before an overgod would be futile. It would not be able to evade their senses. Right now, they could only hope that the overgod feared the ancestor of the Yang family and was not willing to fall out with the Yang family completely. A while later, Jian Chen kicked Elder Lu's corpse suddenly. He said, "I'll spare your lives today. Piss off with your companion's body." "Thank you, Senior." Spared, the three elders caught the corpse and flew out the window as if they had just avoided death. They moved as quickly as possible. With just a flash, all three of them had vanished. It was very difficult to see them moving about in the streets below. At the same time, the Yang family people who had surrounded the inn below received secret messages from the three elders. They all dispersed the encirclement with some confusion and surprise, leaving with the disheveled young master who was missing an arm. All the people of the Yang family had retreated. They're going? The people of the Yang family are just going like this? It's impossible for the matter to just end like this, right? It's impossible. The Yang family is one of the most powerful clans in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. Any person who offends them will always suffer in the end. I think I saw people fly out of the window earlier. It was just that they moved too quickly, so I failed to see it clearly. Has the person who injured the young master already been taken away by the elders? That's very likely. That person probably will suffer from the consequences of offending the Yang family. Sigh, looks like that is another soul lost from this world. The cultivators who had gathered on the streets all sighed emotionally. Many of them showed much sympathy, as well as anger and deep helplessness. At this moment, there was actually no one who took joy in the matter, surprisingly. Clearly, the Yang family was not well respected by many people even though they were one of the most powerful clans in the kingdom. The guards are coming. Everyone give way. At this moment, a call rang out, and the expressions of all the cultivators present immediately changed. Without any hesitation, they stepped to one side and formed a path without any further instruction. A group of armored soldiers on a magical beast rushed over from the distance. Their faces were all cold, and their gazes were sharp. Who has been causing trouble here? The captain of the guards gazed around and said heavily, "Sir, the young master of the Yang family brought a few elders from the Yang family to take someone away." A young man in the crowd reported everything he knew with a smile. However, when the captain heard that Yang Tai's arm had been chopped off by someone, his face changed immediately. He said furiously, "What did you say? Yang Tai's arm was chopped off? By who? Who is bold enough to commit such heinous deeds in the royal capital?" The guard was extremely furious, as one of Yang Tai's female cousins was his wife. "Sir, the people of the Yang family have already retreated. They've probably captured the person already," the young man said carefully. "Humph. Even if he has been taken away, I won't forgive him. Come, let's look into the matter and see if we can deduce his identity and background from any remaining traces," the captain said coldly. With a wave of his hand, he immediately brought some of his trusted subordinates into the inn. Jian Chen remained in the same room. As the room's defensive formation had not been reactivated, the captain directly barged through the door in a reckless and brutal manner. However, as soon as the captain entered the room and was about to look for any traces left behind, he was stunned. Soon afterwards, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he stared at a man in white clothes who stood before the window with his back towards him. "Who are you?" the captain demanded. "I'm that person bold enough to commit such heinous deeds in the royal capital." Jian Chen stared outside as he said calmly. Chapter 1831. The Royal Divine Army mobilized. "What? That person is you? Doesn't that mean that you also cut off Yang Tai's arm?" The captain stared at Jian Chen in shock. Disbelief flooded his face as he was completely taken aback. Did the elders of the Yang family not take away the person who offended the Yang family and cut off Yang Tai's arm? How could he still be here? Even if the elders of the Yang family did not take away the person who had chopped off Yang Tai's arm yet, just where had the elders run off to? Why did they leave the person behind and return all by themselves? Even if he ignored just how unbelievable the outcome was, it was impossible for the Yang family to do such an embarrassing thing with their strength and prestige. If the matter made it out to the public, the Yang family's status would probably plummet in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. It could even affect their status in the surrounding divine kingdoms. As a captain of the guards for the royal capital, you should enforce the laws impartially. Shouldn't you at least ask about how everything happened in the first place after getting here and not focus on Yang Tai's arm? Don't tell me that as a captain of the guards, you're connected to the Yang family, and you want to take advantage of your position so things work in the Yang family's favor? Jian Chen said calmly. He had not shifted his gaze from beyond the window. He stared in the direction of the royal palace of the kingdom. Just then, he had discovered someone sending over the senses of their soul in an extremely well-hidden manner. Although the senses had been purposefully concealed, Jian Chen still discovered it. He only found it to be extremely unclear and hazy. Clearly, his current strength was not enough to clearly pinpoint where it had settled. However, even though he had only captured it vaguely, Jian Chen could feel a mountainous pressure from it. Even with his current strength, he could not help but shiver. God King, Jian Chen thought. The God Kings of the Divine Kingdom had already begun paying attention to here. The Divine Kingdom of Pingtian has 2 God Kings. I wonder if the senses of the soul I just discovered belongs to the Divine King His Majesty or the Grand Imperial Protector, Jian Chen wondered. The Divine King reached God King many years ago. It said that before the Divine Kingdom had even been founded, the Divine King Pingtian was already a God King. He personally led his subordinates to create this Divine Kingdom. Now that the Divine Kingdom has already existed for several hundreds of thousands of years, the Divine King must have made quite a lot of progress compared to before. On the other hand, the Grand Imperial Protector has only reached God King recently. It said that he only broke through a little over 100,000 years ago. The Divine King's strength must be greater than the Grand Imperial Protector. I won't be able to sense the Divine King's senses of the soul as a result, so it should have been the Grand Imperial Protectors. Jian Chen stood before the window with his back towards the captain of the guards. He gazed in the direction of the royal palace as he pondered deeply. He completely did not notice that the captain's face had become abnormally ugly when he mentioned that the captain might be abusing his position. His face basically sunk completely and killing intent filled his eyes. The laws within the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian were particularly strict. As a captain of the guards, he was loyal to the Divine King, but he still helped the Yang family do many things in secret. As a result, the thing he feared the most was other people mentioning that he was abusing his position of power. Clearly, Jian Chen's words had completely infuriated the captain. I will naturally find out exactly what transpired. However, there's no hope denying that you cut off Yang Tai's arm. You dare commit crimes so openly in the royal capital. Humph. Come, take him away, the captain said coldly. Yes, captain, immediately. A few guards charged into the room to take Jian Chen away. At this moment, a thunderous series of galloping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble gently. What is happening? The captain and his guards all looked at each other from the sudden disruption. The guards who wanted to take Jian Chen away stopped as they became uncertain. The disruption was simply far too great, and it was like an entire army was moving about. The earth seemed to be shaking from the deafening gallops. Two of you stay here to watch over him. The others, come with me to see what's happening, the guard said coldly. He immediately stopped paying any more attention to Jian Chen and left with his trusted subordinates. However, when the captain left the inn and saw what was happening in the distance, he became completely stunned. In the distance, a squad of elite, armored soldiers shot over. They moved extremely quickly as if they were lightning. From the distance, they seemed to have been reduced to a string of blurs. The soldiers were all actually at godhood. The mounts beneath them were 3 flamed divine horses that burned with red flames. 3 flamed divine horses were relatively common beasts in the saints' world. They seemed like horses, but they were 3 times larger and were naturally accompanied by flames. They were called 3 flamed, because the flames of the mount could change 3 times in a single lifetime. Newly born, they would possess strength at sainthood, and their flames would be scarlet. Once they reached adulthood, their strength would be on par with deities, and their flames would become blood red. If they were nurtured with a vast quantity of heavenly resources, the horses could even become gods. Once they became gods, their flames would burn a deep violet. That would be the final stage of cultivation for the horses. Throughout history, there had never been a 3-flamed divine horse that had reached over God. However, these divine horses would become the mounts of the very best due to their strength. Once they were tamed, they would remain loyal for the rest of their lives, and they were naturally skilled at teamwork. The horses beneath these soldiers all possessed blood-red flames. Clearly, they had all reached adulthood, and they possessed the battle prowess of a deity. It's the Royal Divine Army. Oh my God! It's actually the Royal Divine Army. Am I dreaming? The Royal Divine Army has actually come. Looking at the direction they're heading in, the Royal Divine Army seem to be going to the Perched Phoenix Inn. Has something happened there, which is why they're going that way? The conflicts within the royal capital have always been handled by the regular guards. Why would the Royal Divine Army deal with these miscellaneous matters? They are lofty existences, and they are the strongest and most terrifying army of the entire Divine Kingdom. They're known to be the protector gods of the kingdom. On the streets, countless people watched on. All of their eyes were filled with respect and quite a few of them were filled with eagerness. The Royal Divine Army was a group of soldiers that was almost divine in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They possessed crushing strength. In the entire region, there were no armies from any divine kingdom that could match up to the Royal Divine Army. Why has the Royal Divine Army come? The captain of the guards watched everything unfold in disbelief. The Royal Divine Army was rarely ever mobilized. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.